Hello, hello. How we doing? All right, you guys hear me okay? All right. Oh my god, everyone's talking about... Is everyone talking about Sanji right now? Is everyone talking about Sanji at the moment? All right. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we're talking about Sanji right now. Listen, this is not a talking about Sanji being a pedophile stream. All right, this is a normal stream. This is a stream about... What's our topic? Fuck. We're going to be talking about Sanji because the topic is MVP of Whole Cake. Or not Whole Cake, you know what I mean. Egghead. Egghead, Whole Cake. How come we've had so many arcs about food? Not so many, but, you know, out of the last 3 arcs, 2 out of 3 of them, 66% have been named after food-based islands. Whole Cake, then Wano, then Egghead Island. Anyway, let's get the stream likes to 100. Let's get the stream likes to 100. Let's do that. That's thing number 1 that we got to do. Then beyond that, I didn't know how much... Do we want to talk about the Sanji stuff at all? I don't think it's worth talking about at the moment. I'm just going to leave it alone. Okay. Oh, I got a super I got to respond to from the beginning of this stream. Let's get the stream likes to 100. I know it is too early to do Egghead Island MVP. We are going to do Egghead Island awards. So, like, if you all remember when Wano ended, we did a full award stream. Which characters, you know, just a full award stream. We did that after Wano. Like, 6th Man... Rookie of the Year, MVP, all of that shit. We did everything for that for Wano. I think we did Defensive Player of the Year. I think we did stuff like that. So you can go catch that stream. It's on the Morj Streams channel. We're going to do that again for Egghead. At this moment in time, I'm going to do the same thing that all ESPN shows have done to kill, the regular debate that ESPN will generally fall back on during the regular season while we're waiting for the playoffs is who's number 1 in the MVP debate. The MVP debate, just because we're going to have it again at the end of the arc, we're going to do the full award show at the end of the arc. That doesn't mean we can't do it right now while the season's still going. So right now, I kind of want to figure out who's MVP of Egghead Island so far, at least in the people's eyes. Gerard, thanks for the 2. Don't like the stream if he's more than 15 minutes late. No, don't do that. First of all, I was not more than 15 minutes late because I started the stream at 7:45 EST, which is 15 minutes after it was started from. So either way, what do you call? That's I'm within the bounds of whatever it needs to be within the bounds of. Second of all, that's the only argument I have. That's it. All right, let me get to the super that I missed from before the stream started. This is from... Who is this? Oh, this is from Justin Holland. Thanks a lot, man. Bringing up 2 more reasons Luffy versus Akainu is inevitable. Hey, I'm on board with Luffy versus Akainu. I've always felt like Sabo versus Akainu is a little forced. I don't think it's based on that much. I think it's just based on Sabo, like, wanting Sabo to have a fight, rather than what seems more natural for Luffy's story and the things that seemed set up for Luffy and the giant fucking scar on Luffy's chest. So Justin Holland is saying potential to end the hunt for One Piece in a year, and as one of the people who traumatized Robin to fulfill his duty as her captain to protect her. I could see that. I don't know if it's like he's doing it for Robin necessarily is the most specific reason. I don't know, because at the end of the day, like, a lot of people kind of... Like, I don't know if Robin even associates Akainu that well with the Ohara incident. I don't know how aware she is. Maybe it was mentioned at some point in the story how aware she is that he's the one that gave the order or anything like that. I don't think if she saw Akainu, she would feel PTSD the way she does with Saturn because she never really interacted with him or heard his voice or anything. But I do think that there could be something there. Akainu's potential to end One Piece in a year. So I've always interpreted that as basically, if Akainu was the protagonist and written like a protagonist is, then the story of One Piece is he could wrap it up very quickly. For example, Luffy's the protagonist, so, if you drop Luffy against Kaido, then over the span of 50 chapters, like, pretty quickly, right, he's going to go from like first mate level, like at the start of the rooftop, to basically not overpowered, but like crazy sun god, advanced conquerors hockey, sky splitting, like reality warping monster by the end of the fight, right? So my interpretation was always like, yeah, if you write Akainu like a protagonist, because protagonists are always going to be written to be very fast growth and like plot armor, and just the story's going to bend to them and everything like that, then it would just wrap up too quickly because Akainu's already so strong, right? I think a lot of people view it as like, no, Akainu's already strong enough that he would just end the story right away, which I don't think really makes any sense, because it's like, how? I just assume that, yeah, like if you wrote Akainu like a protagonist, then yeah, you could take Akainu as he is right now, drop him in front of Imu, and over the course of a fight, if he gets all of the plot armor and the power-ups and all of that stuff that Luffy does, then he'd be able to beat Imu within the span of like a year or something like that, right? In terms of like 50, like the same way Luffy over a year-ish or whatever, he got there against Kaido. You know what I mean? Like, I assume that he means like in story time, right? Or sorry, outside the story time. In story time, a year is not that much. Luffy is going to become Pirate King in less than that. I assume that always referred to out of story time. But yeah. The Joe, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 1 month. Hey Morj, how you doing? You should always start your streams with, nah, I'd be on time. First of all, let me just throw this out, which is the Pirate King podcast. The submissions basically close today because I'll be recording the Pirate King podcast tomorrow. So if you have some question that's, One Piece related, other anime and manga related, video games, movies, TV shows, real life, yada, 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 sports, blah, 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 blah related, throw it into the Pirate King podcast. I answer this very in-depth. Every question gets answered fairly in-depth over the course of about an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes even a little bit longer. So Pirate King podcast submissions still open. Check those out if you want to get your submission in for the Pirate King podcast coming up this month. The Joe, I encourage you to check that out. Behenort, thanks for being a Pirate King member for 9 months. Always good to see you. I'm sure you already got your submission in for the Pirate King podcast. I'm now convinced 100% that Imu has ocean-related devil fruit, either Sea Devil or Mother Sea. Also, the fact that canon in-universe ocean deity is a mother makes me lean towards feminine Imu theories. The problem is that Imu has been referred to as a male. That guy is something Nerona. I mean, it's not confirmed that it's this person, but something Nerona, right? Let's see, 1086 I think might be it. Yeah, they think, their theory is that Saint Imu of the Nerona dynasty, there was a monarch named Saint Imu of the Nerona dynasty. I assume that this is a male. So I don't know. I also think that Oda I don't know. Oda is not the best when it comes to writing, female characters in power in general. Like, I think Big Mom's like the shining, like the fact that there's no strong female characters in One Piece period outside of Big Mom, who most people would agree is probably the most clumsily written and comically handled powerful character, and almost disrespectfully written powerful character in the entire story. I don't know. I wouldn't bet money. And Luffy, the only woman that he's fought, I think straight up, like as a final battle, has been Alvida. So it's kind of a one and done way back in the first arc. I don't know if Oda's going to have the final villain of the story be, what do you call? Yeah, I don't know if Oda's going to have the final villain of the story be, I just don't know if he's going to have Imu be a woman. I just don't know if that's going to be a thing Oda would do. Nurugangi says, Barber gave you that broccoli cut. You should be arrested. The barber did not give me this cut. My bedhead gave me this cut, so that's what it looks like. Hold on, I'm just catching up here. Let's get the stream likes to 100. Otherworlds JT, thanks for the 5. Think Enma was fed MZ devil fruit? What does MZ devil fruit mean? MZ devil fruit? Fed? I'm just gonna assume think Enma was fed a devil fruit. Do you think one of his swords could get one? 3 swords but no devil fruit seems like a missed opportunity for the concept to show potential. I think Zoro should never have to use it. If you use a devil fruit to become the world's strongest swordsman, that's just cheating. I would not view Zoro as the world's strongest swordsman. The idea is that you do it through sword ability, pure sword ability, you know? At least to me. I mean, like, if Zoro shows up with, you know, the fucking, one of his fruits has the Quake fruit or something, I wouldn't exactly be like, yeah, this is a fair fight, Zoro earned that shit. Nerve AMV Maker, thanks for the 10. Oda seems to best give Straw Hats extra development by writing them a storyline where they leave the crew. I think he won't write this storyline for Zoro and thus has trouble giving him a second arc. I mean, I kind of disagree. Like, I do agree that that's something that's popped up in recent times. Obviously, Nami, Robin, Usopp, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Robin, Usopp, Sanji, they all had some of their most impactful storylines when that happened. But you can also find, like, Nami had a really good storyline in Skypiea, you know? Zoro had a really good storyline in Thriller Bark. You can do stuff without having to have the Straw Hats leave the crew. It's just usually that leaving the crew is the most disruptive activity that a single Straw Hat can do that can swing a tremendous amount of focus over to them. So that is a strong avenue to doing that, but Usopp had a great storyline in Dressrosa. You know, you don't need to do that. I don't think anyone's asking, like, the way I would put it is that Zoro, in terms of just straight up screen time in Wano, he had plenty, like, if you just add up how much screen time he had in Wano, he had tremendous potential for a really good storyline. It's just that there was no story really written for him. It was just him wandering around and doing stuff. Like, I mean, Hiyori, okay, you can't have that sword, you have to have Enma instead. Oh no, I really like Yasue. Okay, Yasue dead. I hate Orochi. That's not really going to lead to anything. And also, I don't mention Yasue's name ever again for the rest of the arc. It's just, his motivations are so scattershot all over Wano because it's like he was given 15 things to do, and then none of it had any relevance to his actual king fight or his clash with Kaido or anything. But you can just look at other Straw Hats. I think more so, again, like, Chopper has a great storyline in Skypiea. Nami has a great storyline in Skypiea. Zoro has a great storyline in Thriller Bark. There's so many arcs where you don't need the Straw Hat to leave to have good writing around them, right? When you have the Straw Hat leave, that's basically saying, okay, this whole arc is going to be largely focused on them, but you don't need that. You just need, like, something basic, right? No, I don't think I'm asking or other people are necessarily asking for a full storyline centered around Zoro. I think some people wanted that for Wano, but I think I was just hoping that he gets a storyline, period, like something somewhat interesting. I think the bigger reason that Oda might be struggling, quote-unquote, to do that for certain characters, such as Zoro, is more so because of the abundance of side characters that seem to dominate storylines nowadays. When you have so many side characters that, you know, Oda wants to feature, that the storylines are more naturally going to be built around, that's what's going to make it difficult for him to fit in good storylines for the existing Straw Hats, I figure. So I think until we get to the storylines that are actually going to be, you know, focused on... Until we get to a storyline that's legitimately just focused primarily on the Straw Hats, maybe a storyline focused on... Maybe each Straw Hat storyline where their dream gets fulfilled or whatever, I think maybe we just aren't going to get anything necessarily great on the Straw Hats. I think that's possible. Ancrus, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 8 months. I hope you're looking forward to tomorrow's podcast. I hope you got your submission in. Mr. Morj, any thoughts on the last couple of Chainsaw Man chapters? I have not read the last 2 Chainsaw Man chapters. I know, I'll hold 2 fingers up for a second while I'm spoiling Chainsaw Man. I know they're partway through the prison break. I was kind of having a bit of fun reading that. Chainsaw Man, I generally... done with spoilers pretty much. Chainsaw Man, I generally, because chapters go by so fast, I like letting them stack up a little bit. So I'm going to read the last few chapters soon. Also, have you seen or heard of Shogun on Hulu? It ended recently and it's the most entertaining live action show I've seen lately. I've heard only good things about Shogun. I don't think I've ever seen a negative thing about Shogun. I will watch it at some point in time. That's all I know. I just finished the Fallout series, so I thought Fallout was fun. It was a fun series to follow. Ended it on a big cliffhanger. Yeah, it was just fun. Shogun I'll probably watch soon. Like, out of live action shows, Shogun would probably be the next one that I watch. Oh, Mythical Zone probably means Mythical Zone, says Umair. Yeah, either way, whatever the fruit might be. Like, if Zoro's walking around with Kaido's dragon fruit inside his sword Enma, I think that's kind of busted. Tom, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 19 months. When people say they don't care about scaling, they mean they aren't going to overanalyze every minor interaction. They still care about Luffy's growth. I get that when people say they don't care about power scaling, that they mean that they don't let that dominate every aspect of them caring about the narrative. But I also feel like that can be used too much to dismiss things that matter to the narrative. Because it's like, if you're reading the Wano arc, right, then the story opens with Luffy getting one-shotted by Kaido. That means that right off the bat, you have to understand that it would not be good writing if Luffy went up to Kaido after that and just beat him up without any sort of power-ups or growth, right? I think everybody understands that intuitively, right? The reason you understand that intuitively is because of power scaling, and the story is fucking built on power scaling, right? It is bad writing when something happens that makes no power scaling sense whatsoever. If Luffy got one-shotted by Kaido in Act 1, and then Act 2 opens and he walks over to Kaido, and without any sort of growth or power-ups, he just says something like, I've learned about this town and you've made my friends mad or something, or hurt my fucking Tama with her red Oshiruko, whatever the fuck, red paste or whatever that she likes, and then he just one-shots Kaido after that. That's bad writing. You can't be like, oh, you know, this is so fitting because thematically it's so beautiful that Luffy freed the town or whatever, and like it checks off all these emotional things. It's like, no, it's bad writing because power scaling wise, this makes no fucking sense. All right, so much, like, to me, it's just like when so much of the story is built around power scaling, it is just stupid to say I don't care about power scaling. It's just stupid. It's just generally dumb. It's like so much like Sanji beating Queen, Zoro beating King, Luffy getting his power, like everything that happens, the entirety of the climax of Wano to make it happen, like make it possible, like the defeat of Big Mom, the defeat of Kaido, etc. This is all thanks to power-ups, characters getting stronger, us understanding the level that things are supposed to be at and how the heroes are supposed to rise to reach that level. This whole fucking shebang is fucking power scaling with some character shit written in and some thematic writing written in. That's the gist of it, though, all right? So it annoys me when people come at it. Like, I get it. What you kind of mean is like, well, we don't overanalyze every little interaction. But if you come in and just say, I don't care about power scaling, that is as stupid as coming in and saying, I don't care about themes or I don't care about character development. It is equally stupid. Gunner455, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 11 months. Morj, could you see Oda having Blackbeard/Luffy temporarily team up to defeat Imu as a twist? The sun and moon against all true evil. Keep up the great vids. I don't think I would like that. Because then to me, it's like after that, you would expect maybe Luffy versus Blackbeard or something. And I think a lot of that energy is changed once you see them team up first to defeat a common enemy. I don't know. Unless Luffy's not even supposed to be Blackbeard afterwards and maybe Blackbeard dies fighting Imu. That could be kind of cool if they fight Imu together, Blackbeard dies fighting Imu. I don't know. Casey says, I care zero of power scaling in fights. Then I don't even know what to say. Then you're just stupid. Then you like literally are probably reading pages of the story and being like, I don't even understand what's happening. Like, what's going on right now? You probably read like fucking... you probably read Long Ring... You probably read that when they faced Aokiji or something like that on Long Ring Longland. We're like, I'm just confused. Wait, why don't they just beat up the Admiral and save Robin? What's going on right now? You must have been reading Saboti and being like, why are the Straw Hats so scared? What's so scary about this situation? I feel no tension, no stakes, nothing. Like, why don't they just beat up all the pacifistas and Sentomaru and Kuma and Kizaru and get out of there? None of this makes any sense. You probably felt no excitement when Rayleigh showed up to stop Kizaru. You probably felt nothing for like... You must have just been like, well, Luffy fucked up. He should just beaten up Kizaru and those bad guys right there at Saboti and gotten out of there. Every single... Like, so... I'm like how many... Like, how do you even go through the story... Almost every single situation that involves any level of stakes or tension is built off of understanding how power scaling works and what characters can do, what can't do, why it's dramatic for a character to be able to take a step forward, to be able to achieve something that they couldn't before. It all comes back to that. That's the center of the fucking nut. All right? That's the core of it. All this other shit, it's just built off of the back of just power scaling. That's the center of it. Jesus Christ. These fucking pretentious ass people. You're reading a fucking... like kids comic about superpowers and characters getting stronger and getting power-ups. That's what it is at the end of the day. It has some brilliant writing and storytelling that comes out of that, but don't forget what you're reading at the core of it. Don't pretend, don't kid yourself, you know? You care. Either you care or you're just stupid, because then you just don't understand any scenario that ever happens in the story. You're just constantly in a state of confusion because power scaling is like omnipresent in the story. All right, hold on. Let's catch up here. The Final Storm, thanks to the 2. Kid and Law, 3 billion berry bounty MVPs. Oh my god. They're MVPs for stealing, like, for getting away with the biggest bounty robbery in history. I feel like bounty hunters, someone should tip them off, because it's like, hey, you know those guys with 3 billion berry bounties? They're secretly actual pushovers. You can do anything you want to them. You can show up out of the blue and just fucking get 3 billion berry free. They're really worth, like, little less than 1 billion if we're being each honest. JWP, thanks for the 2. Shanks Egghead MVP for removing Kid from the story. I don't know about that. Party McFly, thanks. I'm going to catch these membership chats first real quick. Thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 13 months. Again, I hope you're looking forward to tomorrow's podcast. Well, it's going to be recorded tomorrow, but get your submissions in for tomorrow. What other bombshells do you think we'll get from Vegapunk's message? Maybe Ancient Kingdom name. I hope we don't get the Ancient Kingdom name for Vegapunk personally. I think we definitely could get it just because it's a callback to, like, Clover was trying to complete... Oda's including a lot of callbacks to Ohara in this arc, right? And in this scene specifically. So, Clover tried to finish a statement and he died. I could easily see Vegapunk giving us the end of that statement, and there's nothing the world government can do because Vegapunk is already dead. So, they don't know how to stop this one, right? At the same time, I've personally always wanted Robin to be the one to give the name of the Ancient Kingdom. I don't know if that's going to happen now with the way that Vegapunk's fucking spilling the beans. I think Robin giving the name of the Ancient Kingdom would just be fitting. It picks up from her storyline in Ohara. But, you know, this Egghead seems like a bookend to Ohara. I mean, Buster Call. Similar attempts to silence history, the Gorosei involved, etc. Vegapunk's kind of playing a far more scaled up version of what the role Clover was playing. Polmouth, thanks a lot. Oda straight up forgot about Usopp. I am convinced that, like, Oda loves Usopp. He really, really does, because, again, throughout the entire story, Usopp is the Straw Hat that Oda goes back to most frequently for actual character writing and development. By far, out of all the Straw Hats, it's Usopp most frequently, right? That hasn't been the case since Dressrosa. Whole Cake you give a pass because it's like, you know, he's not there in Whole Cake, right? He's literally absent. Whole Cake Usopp's not there. Wano, it was bad. It was real bad. Because it's not even just like he didn't help much, but it's like the times he was on screen, he was gratingly cowardly. Usually when Usopp's exceptionally cowardly, he gets some sort of really brave moment to counterbalance it, but he didn't get that. Egghead, he's just non-existent. So I like to believe that because Oda has Elbaf plotted out as being very significant and Usopp focused, therefore Usopp's getting the short end of the stick now. You could think about it a little bit like this. Those of you may not remember, but before Whole Cake Island, there was discussion that, you know, Sanji fans were a little upset that Sanji's not getting that much cool stuff to do or that much focus in post-time skip as they would have liked. He literally got shipped off for... Like, it was jarring, if you're a Sanji fan, to see Sanji shipped off for an entire storyline like Dressrosa, and Dressrosa wasn't a short storyline by any means. He was shipped off around chapter 730, so he was there for 30 chapters, but still, 70% of the arc, 70 chapters without the character. And even then, once we got to Zou, he wasn't there either. They'd already missed the boat on him. So for Sanji fans, until they got the reveal that, okay, the next storyline is going to be Sanji-focused, it was, you know, the characters just go through it like this, where there's periods of time where it's just like, fuck, what are they going to get? I feel bad for Frankie fans, if they fucking exist, because it's just like, holy shit, if he's not getting it this arc, when the fuck is he actually going to... I think it's not going to be time till it's like Pluton building time or some shit for Frankie to really have a role. I'm a pirate, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 13 months. I think it's funny how you describe Jinbe as old and used up because he slept around with too many other pirate crews. Yeah, man, Jinbe, he's just been passed around. And he says it's for the good of his kingdom or whatever the fuck to protect the fishermen. But, like, as far as I can tell, the dude's just getting passed around from Yonko crew to Yonko crew. Like, which crew has he not been with? Nothing wrong with it. It's just like, I kind of like the white, like, you know, first he's with his fisherman people on... you know, Fisher Tiger's ship and everything like that. And then after that, he's like, I kind of like, I know we don't like the humans, but I kind of want to go hang out with the humans for a little bit. Okay, well, now I'm going to hang out with the world government. I'll be their Shichibukai boy for, like, some while. Okay, now I'm going to hang out with the Big Mom Pirates. I really like how they treat me so good over there. Okay, now I like the Straw Hat Pirates, and this is the last one. I fucking pinky swear. So I don't know. Jinbei's just the dude that gets passed around. He's like that. You know what? Better analogy. He's like an NBA player that just, you know, he's like is once you're a certain level of vet in the NBA, then teams kind of want you, so you get passed around a bunch to, you know, help them out a little bit. Like, you get us to a championship, can you get us to a championship, whatever. But he's gonna do it this time. Jinbe with the Strats right now. Here's how I'd put it with Jinbe with the Strats right now. I feel like Jinbe with the Strats right now, I feel like he's like Andre Iguodala, right? I don't view him as like a star like Luffy, Zoro, Sanji. I view him as a solid Andre Iguodala. And I think if you know anything about basketball, that is a very respectable thing to be on that Warriors team. Andre Iguodala, amazing. Like, I feel like that's the perfect Jinbe comparison on the Straw Hat star-studded crew. He's not. I don't think he's a star. He's not a star. He's not Steph, Claire, Dre, but he is Iggy, and that's very, very fucking valuable. But we don't need to be like, oh, it's like, you know, Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbe, they're all like grouped together, whatever. Like, no. Two of these things, one of these things is not like the other, right? Jinbe is Jinbe, Zoro and Sanji, end of story. Fucking Mihawk, Yonko, Admiral plus level or whatever. Jinbe is still just gonna be the same as like fucking 58-year-old Jinbe that we know, you know? Nothing's gonna change there too much. Okay, let's keep going. Hold on. Let me catch up on all these. Behanort, thanks a lot. To be honest, I wouldn't lose sleep over Imu being a dude, but them being a woman would just be a nice bonus. Again, it's not that important, but there's a lot of extra small evidence for female Imu. I wouldn't, like, if Imu is a woman, that's, you know, a nice mix-up for Oda at the end of the story. I just don't believe that Oda would do it. Oda is also the type of mangaka that is somewhat openly... Like, Shonen Jump is for boys, right? But Oda is the type of mangaka... He writes great female characters, for sure, right? Nami, Robin, two of the best female characters, I think, period, in Shonen. But the reality is that One Piece is not one for, like, very strong female characters at the end of the day. Like, in terms of power-wise strong. Not character-wise strong, but just actual power-wise and capability strong. Like, battle combat strong, right? Those are few and far between. And Oda has been out and out, like, he's talked about in interviews and such, like, straight up. Things like how he does, like, specifically, he writes the story specifically for boys. He does not take, input from female fans. Like, he doesn't really think too much about it. He's said straight up at some point that one of the most important things that he thinks about when he writes One Piece is the concept of manliness. This is all stuff that is just how he likes to write the story. I think that is very much reflected in how One Piece is, and the fact that, like, compared to most modern day manga, you are not going to see, like, there's going to be an exceptional dearth of particularly strong, like, power-wise strong female characters in the story in general. Like, it is rare that, like, One Piece is that rare series that you could create a top 30, like we've done in the past, and out of the top 30 strongest characters, you know, with Big Mom out of the story, there's not going to be a single woman. I think that's kind of insane. So I do think that Imu would be quite the mix-up if Imu, the strongest character in history, maybe aside from Joy Boy and Luffy's final opponent, is a woman, you know? I just don't... I think that that's not Oda's... just the type of person he is, for better or worse. That's just not him. Evil Friend, thanks to the 2. What OP character is most likely to be never nude? Oh, for those of you who don't know, this is a reference to Arrested Development. Boa, I forgot Boa, but if you look at Boa, like, that's my bad, I forgot Boa, but Big Mom is out of the story at this point, right? She's dead. I didn't include Kaido or her in recent top 30 lists, right? So if you did a top 30 today, you would have 1 out of 30 characters, which is Boa, unless I'm forgetting somebody else. And the thing about Boa is that she's a strong character fighting wise, but also, it's really played up how much her biggest, like, it's also not the most progressive type of, like, her biggest strength is that she's so beautiful that she can turn people to stone. I'm sure she has good hockey and other things like that, but the thing that's been played up the most about her in terms of what makes her so dangerous is, she's, like, her ability is literally, what if there's the strongest woman in the world alive right now is, like, well, her ability is being really fucking sexy. I don't think that's the most progressive thing in the world, comparative to a lot of other contemporary manga. And even for its time, like, you compare One Piece to Bleach, Naruto, its contemporaries, like, even for its time, One Piece is a little behind in that department for sure. You know, like, Naruto at least had fucking, like, say what you will, but Tsunade was Hokage at the end of the story. At least a couple of the Kages at the end of the story were women. Sakura got some really random power-ups and stuff like that. You know, Bleach, fucking look at what, what's her name? The Zero Squad captain did at the end of this last episode. It's just, I think One Piece is a bit behind in that category for sure. For better or worse, that's just the way it is. This is not even a critique of Oda. I'm just saying that this is what it is, because I don't think I'm not big on like to me storytelling is what matters more at the end of the day. But I'm saying in terms of we're specifically talking about likelihood that Imu, the strongest character in the world, is woman. I don't think that that's that likely, just based on Oda's tendencies as a writer. Continuing on. Most likely who'd be a Never Nude, so that's an Arrested Development reference, as I said. Most likely to be a Never Nude might be Gaimon. Gaimon can't be, because he's always stuck in that chest. Keenan, thanks a lot. Shanks will challenge Buggy to a Davy back fight, and that's how we'll end up getting Shanks versus Mihawk. I know this for a fact, Oda told me. I mean, I do think that there's a really solid chance that... I don't know if we'll ever see Shanks versus Mihawk on screen, but I do think that there's a solid chance that Cross Guild is involved in the Davy back fight. Whether Shanks challenges, or whether Buggy sees an opportunity, and he's like, I challenge you to a Davy back fight, and in his mind he's like, heh, I have some strong fighters on my side. I'll have, like, Mihawk handle the combat or something like that. I could see that happening. Hawkins, thanks for the 5. How goes the Vagabond read-through? So happy you're reading it. I'm still only at chapter 1. I have to finish Fire Punch still. I'll finish Fire Punch, and then I'll be back on Vagabond. I'm sure that I am looking forward to reading Vagabond. Again, from the first chapter, I took away almost nothing from it. But yeah, I'm sure that it'll be really, really great. Eyes96, thanks for the 5. I will say that Fire Punch, at least where I stopped at a place that's an interlude, 30-something% of the story. I will get through hopefully the rest of it this week. Fire Punch is fucking amazing. Like, it is... I've never read a manga like it. Nothing even close to comparable. The most close to comparable thing is Chainsaw Man, and Chainsaw Man is already, like, 5 steps removed from the general sphere of how manga are normally written. And Fire Punch is very different from Chainsaw Man. Again, it's not very different, but it's like if it basically said, like, you can see Chainsaw Man, I've talked about this a little bit before, but you can see Chainsaw Man as Fujimoto taking his writing style and being like, okay, I have to apply some more generic, typical Shonen writing rules and structure to this, basically, and then that's how Chainsaw Man is born, but Fire Punch is just his, like, fucking acid trip brain going off. Eyes96, thanks for the 5. Wait, you mean to tell me Emu isn't a big titty mama of the sea? Mommy of the sea. I don't think that that's likely. But if it is, who knows? I think it's entirely possible. Oda could mix it up really hard. John67... Oh, no. John678, thanks for the 5. Are you doing harder drugs for every Pirate King podcast? Can you do Blow next? Also disagree on the side character take. Can't wait for the 13 Giant Kings of Elbaf. I'm so excited for the 13 Giant Kings. And then the interview that Oda puts out where he says, like, you know, initially I only had, like, 2 or 3 Giant Kings planned for Elbaf, and I thought of really good stories for them. But then eventually they turned into 13 Giant Kings, and they're 14 jesters or something. I don't know. I will say this. I think that the side character writing right now in this arc, Egghead Island, has been the best it's ever been, but only when it's focused on the characters that we already give a shit on, right? Characters that have already been set up that we've been wondering about for a long time. Kuma, Bonnie, Kizaru getting stuff, Sentomaru getting stuff, even fucking Luchi getting some character development here. Over on the other islands, Garp, Aokiji, Kobe, Lon Blackbeard doing some shit over on the side, right? Kid, Shanks, like the character, I don't know. I think that this is the best that Oda's side character writing has ever been. I just feel like... Yeah, I feel like it like you lose something. You have to gain some. You have to lose something a little bit every time you gain something new. You don't have to, but at least in this department, in this category where there's only so much space, right, for things to happen, I do think stride writing just has to, like, because you can only think of so much in a given arc, right? You can't think. it's difficult to think of good writing that applies to Kobe, Aokiji, Garp, and how that, like, their storylines and the themes around them tie into what's happening with Kizaru, Sentomaru, Vegapunk over here, how that ties into what's happening with Bonnie, Kuma. Like, all of it connects, right? Thematically, just conceptually what's happening in all of these storylines. So it's difficult to do such a large web of that and then also be thinking of something even moderately deep to do with, like, Usopp this arc or like Zoro this arc, right? It's easier to be like, okay, well, what Zoro will do this arc is fight Luchi. That's the easiest thing. That's like 101. It would be nice if every arc we could get a lot for the strides, but it's just not, like, you can only ask so much of one man. I'm cool with this arc, Oda focusing on all these side characters because it's so good. I wasn't cool with it in Wano because, like, at a certain point I was like, I don't think most of us give a shit about, like, half of these scabbards, as reflected in the fact that fucking half of the scabbards died at the end, and I don't think a single reader cared. I think if you quizzed a lot of readers right now and said which scabbards died in Wano, in 20 seconds they might struggle to tell you which exact scabbards died off the top of their head. I just think that next arc, hopefully, or within the next couple arcs, we do need some focus again on the Straw Hats, because it's their story too. Like, it's Luffy's story, but it's the story of the whole Pirate King's crew. It needs to matter to us when they all find the One Piece, because they're the ones that are carrying him there. So we need to care about their stories as well, I think, at the end. As for me doing other hard drugs on every Pirate King podcast, no, but in the future I might do another one where I am, let's say not sober, I'm on something. Knut Morgan, thanks for the 5. You've said that 2001 is your favorite movie. What do you think of Tarkovsky's Solaris? Both are contemporary sci-fi films that are pre-Star Wars. So please don't spoil me anything on Solaris, because I have not seen that yet. So the way I usually when I'm watching movies, or I'm spending time watching movies, I like to go director by director. Tarkovsky is before I kind of took a break from watching, like, catching up on world cinema stuff, Tarkovsky is the director I stopped at. So the tricky thing is I wouldn't just jump into Solaris, because I know that he's got Ivan's Childhood, Andrei Rublev. There's other movies to watch first. I don't know where Solaris falls in the order. Stalker. I think Solaris comes after. I think Solaris comes a little late in the order. So I would watch several films first before getting to Solaris. But I've heard really good things. I'm saying, thanks a lot. If Egghead was as bad as Wano, would you lose hope? If I personally did not enjoy Egghead in the same way that I did not enjoy Wano, then I would probably lose hope. Lose enjoyment of in the series, right? Egghead to me is the strongest arc post time skip so far, and one of the strongest arcs ever in One Piece. So I feel really good about the story. I'm saying, thanks to the 2, I'd hate if Blackbeard becomes Obito or Frieza from Super. I just feel like I would agree. I think it depends on how Blackbeard is done. I just think that Blackbeard right now has so much potential to be an all-time great fictional villain, period. Like, forget One Piece's best villain, like, one of the best manga villains ever, one of my favorite fictional villains ever. I could see that. I don't think I've gotten enough out of Blackbeard so far to say. I love the idea of Blackbeard and what we've gotten out of him so far. He's one of my favorite characters in One Piece, but I think we still need to get to the part where he is the main villain of the story before I'm really like, yeah, this guy's one of my favorites ever. Tom, thanks for the 5. I've been saying this for years, but Usopp is going to get a new hammer in Elbaf, Mjolnir. All 3 of his major fights ended with a hammer attack. I do think that that's possible. I've heard that theory for a little bit. Maybe you're the first person that mentioned it. I've seen it around a little bit, but I do think that still is a thing. I could definitely see that. It would line up very, very well. All right, I'm almost caught up on Supers, and then we're going to start doing the MVP discussion. And I think this is going to get contentious. Dame Gully, thanks for the 5. You'd be so funny to talk about One Piece with. Thanks, man. I've been following since the early Raid Will Fail days. I enjoy arguing in the comments when I have time. That's good to know. You enjoy arguing in the comments with the people when you got time. Manny, thanks for the 5. Do you think Emu will be portrayed as irredeemably evil like the Gorosei, or have some intriguing reasons why they're evil now like past villains? So that is a great question, because I think that, so if you separate, let me pull this shit up here. Take a look at this. All right, so Might screen share real quick. So if you look at One Piece villains in the past, right, I think generally they fall into two categories, right? Fall into two categories, which are pirate villains. Let's make this big. One day I'll get good at using Microsoft Paint. I don't know how many uses it'll take for me to get good at it, but it'll happen at some point. And then you guys will be sorry. I don't know why you'd be sorry. You'd probably be happy. Can you guys see this shit? You guys can see it, right? Oh, I might be covering up some shit. Let me move this to the side a little bit. Can you maybe see it now? I don't know if you can see it now. Here, let me shrink I'm gonna shrink my face a little bit for the sake of this. All right. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see this. Okay, but there's two categories, right? Pirate villains, world government villains. So if we look at pirate villains, right? Generally, what you see are sympathetic villains, right? So you see like villains that you kind of. So I'm gonna cross off the very early East Blue ones because like Kuro, Don Krieg, these are a little too shallow, right? Any pirate villain Oda puts any sort of time into, you do grow and get to feel a little bit of sympathetic. They become a little bit more sympathetic in some aspects, right? Like Buggy, Arlong even, we learn more about over time, and we grew to have some things about, like, some feelings about Arlong. Crocodile, we're not sympathetic towards him necessarily, but he did grow into a more, like we see where he's coming from in some sense. We view him more as an anti-hero to some degree, right? Crocodile, Moria, like these are characters that in some ways you feel sorry for at the end of the day, right? Some shit happened to them. Crocodile, Moria, who else we got? Big Mom, we got her sad backstory. Kaido, we got his sad backstory and shit like that. Like, it just happened. Like, with pirate villains generally, even if you're not getting a sad backstory to make you, like them, you're getting to understand them a little bit better, right? At the end of the day, you're getting to understand them a little bit better. If you look at world government villains, I think generally they're very rarely made to... So world government villains, I'm going to put into certain categories, right? So these are villains that represent world government or world government types. World government types being those that are these godlike authority figures, right? So we have Wapol first, not sympathetic in the slightest. NL, right? Again, not world government, but he represents what celestial dragons down below represent, right? Just this godlike type person. Doflamingo, many feel that he's, even though he got his backstory, many still feel that he's one of the most pure evil, unsympathetic characters, period, right? He had a sad backstory, but he was still fucked up as a child in many ways, right? At least compared to his brother, Corazon. You guys get what I'm saying? Like, generally, these are the types of characters that are made to seem less sympathetic. I'd even throw Luchi in there, even though Luchi's not an all-powerful character or whatever. Luchi was the arm of the world government, just a world government, like, he's all bought into the world government, right? He's happy to represent dark justice. He straight up talks about how he's happy, like, just doing whatever the world government tells him to do, right? He's cool with that. He's not like a Kizaru, Aokiji, etc. Generally, these types of characters that are these godlike authority figures, like a Wapol, an NL, Doflamingo, they are less sympathetic. Luchi's a poor example, I think. Luchi's a poor example, but he is one of the shittiest people that you know, and it's because he's so bought into world government type stuff. I would say he's still a poor example. Let's say Saturn, right? But again, godlike authority type figures, they are generally portrayed as less sympathetic in the story, whereas pirate villains, there's often something that you can kind of get behind, not that excuses their actions, but there is some more nuance to how they are written in many ways. And you can kind of trace back, either they are developed into more anti-hero type characters, like a Crocodile or like a Moria or a Buggy or something like that, or you can at least understand a little bit more of why, like, their upbringing, why they became what they became. I really don't think with world government villains that, like, when Kaido's being defeated, I don't think it was the sense that, like, pure evil is being defeated the same way as Doflamingo is, right? Like, Kaido has traits that are meant to make him more sympathetic, right? We still need to see him defeated for the sake of Wano, but like he respects, like he has a sense of honor, a sense of respect, right? The way he treats Odin, the way that he wanted to win his fight with Luffy. He's going about a certain purpose. It seems like he does want to bring Joy Boy back into the world. Like there's aspects to what he's trying to do. But he's still a shitty person, but it's not like Orochi, right? Like, actually, I think a great example would be Kaido versus Orochi. Orochi is portrayed to be much, much, much less sympathetic, right? He still has a shitty backstory that's sad for him, but he is meant to be this cackling, evil overlord of a character, whereas Kaido is a pirate, right? He's not good, he's a bad person, but there is supposed to be more nuance to the way that they are written, and there are supposed to be a bit more, just a bit more... relatability is the wrong word, but a bit more to them, right? They're not just one-dimensional, just like I'm evil, right? Like whereas a lot of characters right here, Wapol is just evil, NL is just evil, Doflamingo is just evil. You can understand why, like Doflamingo can understand why to what he became what he became, but there is less sympathy that goes towards these characters. They are meant to feel like just evil, shitty people at the end of the day. So I feel like Emu at the end of the day, whereas so if we were to do a quick comparison, right, I think Blackbeard is going to firmly fall into this category where he is a shitty person, but he's going to get a backstory that makes us at least understand him to some degree. Whereas I feel like Emu, there's nothing that we're going to get in Emu's backstory that is going to make us feel any sort of sympathy for the character that took over the world 800 years ago, wiped out like an ancient kingdom, rewrote all of human history, and has been controlling all of humanity, oppressing races, committing genocides, etc. for the last like however many centuries, right? I think that Emu is going to fall more into this category of just straight up a bad dude, and I think a lot of it goes back to, what we were even told. Like it's spelled out for us in, this chapter, right? Like how Oda kind of wants us to think about things. Chapter 499, maybe 500. I think it's somewhat spelled out, right? Where's Kid? Where's Kid when you actually want to see him? It's rare. Man, Kid was badass early on. Look at this. He didn't even seem dumb. Like early on, he seemed like he's got some shit to say. Compared with the purity of the greedy nobles, the villains of the world look pretty damn humane. They don't even understand that the world is in the state because the scum like them control it. We've got our bad side, but we've got our cute side too, right, Killer? To me, that kind of spells out a lot of how we're supposed to view a lot of what goes on with pirates, versus like the type of evil that pirates represent versus the type of evil that the ruling godlike figures represent. I think the type of evil that pirates represent is, yes, they're evil, but it's usually evil by consequence of something else, like environment, state of the world, things like that. Whereas the ruling powers, like Wapol has no excuse, you know, Enel has no excuse, Saturn has no excuse. Doflamingo, he was like killing your father and stuff like that. There's no excuse at the end of the day, right? There is something to be said of the types that just come from this perfect position of power in the first place and are just evil because they can be, versus those who, through war-torn situations, etc., they become they're led down the darkest path, partly because of their own tendencies, but also because of the state of the world that they grew up in. And I think that is a consistent developing idea in One Piece that's been going on for some time, and that Oda has straight up spelled out for us at points. Pre-time skip kid was cool. He gave a cool speech. Okay, so like if you guys wanna take a quick back. Okay, I'm gonna catch up on supers one sec, and members. But let me just show you guys something, right? One of the reasons I like pre-time skip kid a lot was because he kind of had a Doflamingo vibe, where it was like, so like he has that little snippet that he gives us, right? Like that's a cool little breakdown of things. And then on top of that, it's like, you have this, like the war ends, right? So this is the final chapter of Marineford. The war has concluded, and we're seeing the Supernova sitting and watching by, right? And then you got Kid giving his speech, and he gets a full page dedicated. Now it's all over. Ha ha ha. What's over? Blackbeard has been born as a great power. The new world is ruled by the 4 emperors. Red hair Kaido, Big Mom. Now that the balance has been broken, who knows what'll happen? A new age is dawning, the likes of which we've never seen. Like, he gave a lot of, like, pre-time skip, if you recall, we would cut to Doflamingo pretty often for, like, these sort of speeches, like, right before the war began. Like, he started breaking down, like, the Whitebeard pirates versus the Royal Shichibukai, what'll happen. Or, like, chapter 303, where, like, Doflamingo talks about... Hello, internet, please? You know, like, Doflamingo gives this speech about the new age and stuff like that coming, right? Like, Kid had vibes like this. He had vibes like this early on. Like 590 or something like that. Let's see. 590, maybe not 590. 592, maybe? Wherever we're seeing the fucking supernova and shit. Where's the supernova at? Hello? Supernova, please? Give me some of the supernova. Give me some supernova. Oh, it might be. Yeah, here we go. It's do or die out here. If you don't have that kind of resolve, then you shouldn't have come out here in the first place. Like, I don't know. It's small stuff like this, but he just had a... Like, there was just something exciting about him. You know, like, a lot of confidence, a lot of proclamations, and some degree of wisdom. Like, again, this isn't wisdom, but the thing that I pulled up earlier in the auction house, his statements there, or the what do you call, or the what we just saw like a couple chapters back at the end of the war, what he's talking about, or even like chapter like you know, I thought that this was one of the coolest things a character had talked about early on, right here, where Luffy says, "I'm going to be the one who finds the One Piece," right? I thought that this was one of the coolest things a character has said. On the course we took, someone saying something like that would just get you laughed at. But from here on, those without the guts to say that won't survive. Let's meet up in the new world. Like, that, to me, that's one of the coolest things that we've ever had, in all of pre-time skip, that we've ever had a character really break down. And it means a lot. It's not quite as impactful as something like Blackbeard explaining, like, a man's dream never ends or something like that, but it's just this attitude and this mentality that kids are able to bring to the table, which just puts things into perspective, which is, like... Yeah, if you have a really, really big or grand dream, then if you don't even have the guts to say it and be able to express that, then you're not going to be one of the people that make it. And from here on, only the people who are actually able to put everything, including their name, reputation, their pride, etc., on the line and being very open about chasing that dream, only they have the shot. Only they've got a shot at actually achieving what they've been talking about. Like, if you can't even talk the talk, how are you going to walk the walk? I don't know. This character was just so interesting. I think in terms of every instance that he shows up pre-time skip, he almost always has something really interesting and kind of smart to say. At least some level of perspective or wisdom. And I think that was actually one of the most jarring things about Kid post-time skip, which is that post-time skip, he's downright stupid for the majority of it. Like, from jump, he's kind of portrayed as downright stupid. Like, when we get the... It's almost like, so Killer was kind of quiet a lot of pre-time skip. Post-time skip, what you see is like when they're having the meetings with Apu and Hawkins to kind of make this Supernova alliance and stuff. Killer's kind of the voice of reason and guiding the conversation. In Wano, etc., Kid is just portrayed as just a dumb, stubborn, Luffy-esque figure, but like much less likable and also nowhere near as strong or capable or competent, therefore just grating. I don't know, it's kind of disappointing. Like, I don't think he like, there's just some other aspect of his character that was lost over the course of this. I don't know what Oda's initial intent was for him to be, but I feel like it wasn't what it turned out. I still think that there's potential for Kid as a character. I've talked about that. I do think that there's a broader storyline planned out, but I think just straight up in terms of how he's written scene to scene, in terms of being a more, you know, savvy character that can provide perspective, and there's a sense of grandeur and confidence and weight behind that confidence and actually like intellect. I think that's kind of gone. I don't know if Oda even remembers that he used to write Kid like that. You know, it's one of those things where I'm curious if Oda even remembers the type of writing that he had for Kid because it was so long ago. Catching up on memberships real quick. Spade, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 19 months. Dragon the MVP easy. He keeps watching on the East in case something big happens. That's true. We got Dragon locking down the East just in case. Okay. J-Mun, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. What if Lunarians are from the Red Line because the Red Line was stolen from the moon? Loved your last vid. Would love to see more classic Morj analysis. Thank you. I talked about the, actually, if you caught the last Yonko podcast that came out last Friday, maybe it was last Friday or Saturday, I talked a little bit about that last video. So I'm happy that you enjoyed it and what spurred that last video. Lunarians are from the Red Line because the Red Line was stolen from the moon. That is a really, really interesting idea. So I did a video talking about how Emu might have created the Red Line. And then people brought up the Lunarians. And then that's something that I speculated on in the following podcast about, like Lunarians being displaced from their land, because it goes back to which parallel? Being stolen from, like, being ripped off from, like, taken away from your land and brought to a new place where you no longer, you're not, you're brought to a new place and shit sucks, right? What is this place? What are we talking about here? We're talking about the Shandians. So I think that there is a really, really solid possibility that that is the case. All right. Actually, I'm going to make a note to add that little note to, because I've talked about that in podcasts before, but I don't think I've broken that down in video form. Okay. Anyway, I mean, it's a fairly tight parallel, right? You're Shandians, you get pulled off away from the moon, you end up on... Well, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, it's saved for future content for video shit. All right, let me finish these supers out. Jaren Rambo, thanks a lot. If you're Oda, what do you have Kid and Law doing right now? I think Kid could be set for a really good character storyline. I'm just curious as to why these characters were created for the purpose of the end of the story. Like, what are they going to bring to the table in a story that's already going to be very packed with revolutionaries, Yonko, things like that? They're not cut out to be Yonko from what we can tell. So what is Oda's purpose? What are they bringing to the story in that sense? I'm not sure. Law, I think, might be being sent to... Like, if you're saying plot-wise what's happening, I think Kid is going to still be in Elbaf, alive, not dead, and I think there'll just be some setup for a storyline for him there. And I think Law might be being rescued and taken to Elbaf himself. And we might see them again there. Behenor, thanks a lot. Would you like it if Emu and Joyboy had a Pharaoh and Moses in Prince of Egypt type of relationship? I like the idea that Joyboy was a former privileged noble and Emu's bestie turned liberator. If Emu and Joyboy had a Pharaoh and Moses in Prince of Egypt type relationship. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, and then yeah, that could be interesting. That could be really interesting. I only know this because I watched that fucking movie. What movie was that? It was like an animated movie. You guys probably know what I mean. Animated movie about Prince... Is it Prince of Egypt? Yeah, Prince of Egypt. I only know because I watched this movie. Other Worlds JT, thanks a lot. I do like that idea, Behenord. I think that'd be really interesting. Other Worlds JT, thanks a lot. Thoughts on Giants with Haki and Advanced Conquerors Haki? The thing, like, Giants... So, on paper, that could be crazy, but then I thought about it for a moment, and I think that it's not that big of a deal because, like, as time has gone on, size has just mattered less and less in One Piece. So, for example, like... Kaido and Big Mom are already close to the size of giants, right? Like, Big Mom is a giant-esque character, right? She already has Advanced Conquerors Haki. It's not different from Luffy using Advanced Conquerors Haki. But as for will any giants have that level of Haki and Advanced Conquerors Haki, I don't think Dory and Brogy do. And if Dory and Brogy don't, I don't think anybody will, unless maybe, like, the King of Elbaf or something like that. Wait, is Loki king or is he prince? He's prince right now, right? Yeah, maybe the King of the Giants or something like that. That's possible. But if Dory and Brogy don't, I don't think anybody else is really having it. Unless we're waiting on some really, really powerful characters. Alito 5, thanks for the 5. Morj ate my butt. Okay, we might have to draw a hard... I've never had to do this before, but we might have to draw a hard line on what things are and are not allowed in terms of in terms of comments that are being supered. Let me finish this out just because it's you, Alito 5. Not that way. Like he cut my cheeks off and roasted them with some spices. Okay, I guess I'm more okay with that. Said something about how he wanted it. How do I report? No, you just kind of keep that to yourself, you know? Just stay quiet. You don't want to share that around too much, you know? Just take that to the grave. Prince of Egypt, yep. I don't think Loki does, because I feel like, I mean, Loki, in terms of fiction, Loki is obviously, he's supposed to be the more trickster, wily god, not traditional Norse warrior type values. And a lot of people have speculated how that could play into Usopp's storyline. So I'm thinking Loki would not have it. All right, let's talk about the Egghead Island MVP. Let's talk about that. Egghead Island MVP. Time to bust out Microsoft Paint again, but this time for the actual topic of the stream. All right. No, what did I do? Fuck, what did I do? Come on, man. Okay. All right. Let's do it. All right, so we got a pretty thick cast of characters here. The fuck? This is Egghead Island MVP tracker. This is kind of what happens in sports. They need shit like to really fuel the narratives midway through the season. So it's like MVP tracker is the big one to talk about. So that's what we're going to talk about here. Who are we to pretend that we know any better than the professionals at ESPN? Corey Taylor says it's either Luffy or Sanji. I'm going to be honest. I feel like Sanji had a solid arc. Well, I mean, we'll get to Sanji when we get to Sanji, but he let Vegapunk die. I don't know who's still making a case for Sanji. I think Sanji had a really good case before that, but then after that, that's like J.R. Smith thinking, like, forgetting what the score is and running away with the ball. I don't know. I don't even know how you describe that moment by Sanji. I think it's almost underplayed how fucking bad that is, because it's just like, dude, that's like the most important fucking thing. I don't think Sanji's even, like, I can't even imagine making an MVP argument for Sanji. Let's get into it, though. We can try. Let's see. I would definitely say that he had it before. Like, he kind of had it in the bag, and then he, like, took his bag and threw it in a river. I don't know why he did, but he just did. All right. Luffy will not be in contention because it's just unfair. It's Luffy. Luffy's not allowed. Is Vegapunk dead, though? Vegapunk is not technically dead, but his heartbeat stopped, right? I mean, when Vegapunk died, for the record, I did say on stream I didn't think Vegapunk actually died, but then everybody was like, no, obviously he's actually dead. Now it looks like he might not be dead, but... Okay, I think at the moment, let's say, until jury's out at the moment as to whether, like, how dead Vegapunk is, but it does seem like the Stella body is out of commission. I think at the moment, as long as Vegapunk, until we learn more about whether or not Vegapunk is actually dead or not, I don't think you can actually, like, I don't know how you could possibly argue Sanji for MVP, personally. The Zoro bias is so blatant, LMFAO. I don't think Zoro's done that much. I think Zoro's underperformed from what you would like him to do. But I don't think it's Zoro bias to say that if Sanji's job was to keep Vegapunk alive and then he failed at that job within 15 seconds and it was like a really fucking important job and a totally reasonable job for him to do. Like, it's like fucking Vegapunk died. Like, One Piece characters don't die that often. So for a One Piece character to straight up die on your watch, and it's a really fucking important thing to make sure they don't die on your watch, I don't know how you would argue. I'm not saying Zoro's MVP. I think Zoro's pretty far off from MVP. But I just... The fucking Vegapunk... That's not Zoro bias. That's just literally just like, that's what it is. That's what happened. Like, what next? Like, if next chapter... Like, Sanji came in this chapter and he's like, I'm going to help Bonnie-chan. If next chapter, Venus Juro kills Bonnie-chan, I would be like, yeah, that's a bad look for Sanji's MVP case. It probably just died right there. Again, that's not Zoro bias. That's just, what the fuck are we supposed to call it? If Venus Juro goes ahead and kills Bonnie, Frankie, like all of the, like Oimo, Kashi, right now, next chapter, I think it's fair to say, yeah, Sanji's not the fucking MVP. These are, like, what the fuck is that? I don't think that's a Zoro bias thing. Do you think that there is a specific... Cameron... What does this say? Cameron Bot, thanks for the 5. Do you think there's a specific reason that Zoro is the only Straw Hat that hasn't seen Luffy in Gear 5th form yet? I don't know if there's a specific reason. I can't think of a specific reason. I really can't think of a specific reason. I think it'd be funny if Zoro saw Luffy in Gear 5th and was like, tried to pull his like, hey Luffy, act serious thing again, and it's just like, well, that's just not how this one works, man. Okay, let's go. So Straw Hats, right? We're gonna leave Luffy off the list. Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji. Let's give some space in between these. Sanji. What is going on here? Chopper, Robin, Frankie. Jesus Christ, I'm trying to think what these characters have done at all, and it's just... I can't... What have they done? What have these guys been fucking doing this whole arc? They've been sitting around with... Like, what have they been doing this arc? Stussy has done more... Wait, why am I starting with Stussy? Vegapunk... Stussy, Sentomaru? Who else is on the good guy's side? Oh, Bonnie. Fucking duh. Fucking Bonnie. Vegapunk. Bonnie. Kuma. Kuma's obviously here. Kuma's here. Kuma's in it. Okay, let's move these guys all up a little bit. Can I get away with making this font slightly bigger? No. Can I fuck with how much the spacing is? What if I just cut one of these? How many characters am I missing here? Stussy, Sentomaru. So what if I just cut 2 characters? Because Usopp's just not in it, right? There's no point in even listing Usopp. I could just make a little group of characters and be like, these guys haven't done shit so far. Andrew Anderson says Sanji would love the Great Cleansing if he found out it would create the all blue. Fuck, you think it was an inside job? You think Sanji was like, wait, if we let this Vegapunk fucker die, I could get to see my all blue. Whoops, I fucking slipped. Dropped Vegapunk. Guess he's dead now. Let's see what happens. Oh, the Giants, Dorian Brogy. Okay, I'm just gonna have to start crossing off some characters right now. Because, okay, who hasn't done shit? Has Chopper... Because we've only got so much space, right? Nami would be off the list if not for what she pulled out this last chapter. I think Sanji should be off the list, but I'm going to keep him on there just because it's fun discussion. Chopper, has Chopper done anything? Zoro first in the list? Yeah, because it's the fucking order of the Straw Hats. It's always this. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Frankie, Brooke, Jinbe. That's the order of the Straw Hats. You know, Luffy himself always... It's actually interesting. Luffy himself always lists the Straw Hats in the order that they joined. So if you ever question, like, what the order of the Straw Hats is, he will always list them Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Usopp. Like, he lists them in that order. If he's listing any of the Straw Hats in general, like, if he's talking about, like, where's Robin, like, if he's trying to remember where, like, let's say Chopper, Robin, and Frankie have run off somewhere, he's like, oh, we still need to get Chopper and Robin. Or like Chopper, Robin, and Frankie. He will always list any pairings. I think this is fairly consistent throughout the series. There's no exceptions that I can think of off the top of my head. But anytime there's a pairing of Straw Hats, he'll always be like in the order that he got them, right? Where's Sanji and Frankie? You know? Or we still have to wait on Robin and Brooke. Or, you know, Nami, Sanji, Chopper, and Brooke are at Zoe. It's almost always in order. So that's Oda's way of not playing any favorites. Almost always in order. Reflexy, thanks for being a member for 14 months. Vegapunk was already at 2 HP, Morj. Let's be reasonable. Yeah, but they were talking about... No, that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. That's like if... No, that's not an excuse. In One Piece, 2 HP basically means you've got, like, infinite possibilities for life, you know? That's like if Luffy at Marineford, Jinbe picked him up and was like, all right, Luffy's basically dead right now, but I'm going to carry him off to, like, like, Jinbe, take Luffy, get him on board Law's ship, and then immediately one panel later, Akainu kills Luffy. I'd be like, yeah, Jinbei's not exactly MVP, you know? It doesn't matter what HP they're at. It's fucking doable. Kuma's at, like, 2 HP right now. I'm still going to say that if somebody lets Kuma die right this moment, then, yeah, they don't really have an argument for MVP, do they? Rob says Luffy told him to leave, then didn't stop Kizaru. You think it's Luffy's job? Just, like, yeah, Luffy's doing a great job stopping Saturn and Kizaru, like, handling Saturn and Kizaru at the same time. But when Luffy tells him to leave, do you think that the instruction comes with the implicit leave and, leave and don't worry about defending anybody. All you got to do is jog. You just got to jog from here on. Like, just run off. That's all you got to do. If anyone shows up and tries to, attack or anything like that, don't worry. You're not responsible for anything that happens afterwards. I'm literally just assigning you the job to run with Vegapunk. You think that's the case? It's Luffy's Luffy who had to fight Kizaru, then Saturn and Kizaru at the same time? Isn't Sanji one of the fucking wings of the Pirate King? He's supposed to be helping a little bit here. What the fuck are we talking about? I don't even know. For the record, it's not your bad if you fail to do something that's not in your wheelhouse, right? Like if Luffy told Chopper navigate the ship out of Egghead Island, and Chopper was like, I don't fucking know how to do that, man. I only know that fire counters ice. I'd be like, yeah, that's understandable. This dude went to pharmaceutical school. No one's ever made him like look at a log post, right? If you're Sanji and you're like a Yonko second commander, right? You're Yonko's second commander. Your wheelhouse is doing shit like, hey, if there's an admiral around, you're supposed to kind of take care of that for at least a moment. No one's saying you got to win, but like Whitebeard's being frozen by Aokiji. Hey, can I get a hand here? Jozu shows up. That's the type of shit that's just normal and expected. And the problem, like, Sanji showed up the previous chapter and deflected Kizaru's laser. So as soon as you do that, you don't get like, you're in it. Like you're in the squab, right? Like you're there. You've shown what you can do. It's established, right? Like you're a second commander. We understand you're a second commander. You now get held. It's the way sports works, right? Like you're now held to this sort of standard, this sort of expectation. It's just the way it is. Let's go. Let's move it along. Sanji's not going to be MVP just because it's a big L right there. But he did do so much beforehand that it is unfortunate. If there is something really huge that he does at the end of the arc that like reverses the big fumble he had right there, that'd be good. But at the moment, he's not MVP. I will keep him up. I'm trying to let's think. Is there anybody else we can remove just for display purposes, like to make this easier to look at? Can we remove? Has Robin done anything this arc? Have Robin or Chopper done anything this arc? Deshaun Comedy, thanks for the 5. Saturn already stabbed Vegapunk. Also, Sanji did so much good this arc that it negates the one time he slipped up. 32 good versus 1 bad. Look, man, I mean, if this was like a... How do I say this? Saturn did already stab Vegapunk, but Vegapunk was alive. We know Kizaru killed him, right? If you're still alive in One Piece, you're alive. Like, if you're alive, you're good. You're basically good. You can always be saved. It's One Piece, right? So the state of Vegapunk beforehand is Kizaru is the one that killed him, right? Doing 20 good things, like Sanji did do the most good things beforehand, but doing 20 good things beforehand, you can't. It's not a numbers thing where it's like each thing has the same weight. Vegapunk is fucking Vegapunk. This is the Vegapunk storyline. It's fucking Vegapunk. Like the entire world rests on this man's intellect in terms of being able to bring back Kuma's consciousness, developing technology like Mother Flames, Pacifista information, just general knowledge. Like all of it is this. Like this is arguably the single most valuable human being in existence, right? I think there's a solid argument to be made that Vegapunk is the single most valuable human being in the world, period, to be alive. So you can't say like, yeah, Sanji swooped in and helped out the Strats right here, but he also allowed the most valuable being on the planet to die, and that's like the same thing because one is significantly carrying more weight than the other. It's just, he had a really good case. He had probably the strongest case out of the Straw Hats. He fucked it up at the end. That's okay. There's still time to redeem this. Maybe there's something. One, Vegapunk might still be alive, right? But at the moment, we don't know. Vegapunk might still be alive, so it might not be that bad of a slip-up. And two, Sanji could still do something really, really big by the end of the arc. So we could be looking at the end of Egghead Island, and as long as Vegapunk is still somehow conscious or whatever and still alive and can still do Vegapunk-type things, and two, as long as Sanji still continues to do something, like the Venus Jura move was really a really great moment for him just this last chapter. Anything else he does against Venus Jura is just gravy. I think it's already pretty impressive what he did. Then we could be saying, yeah, Sanji for MVP again. But at this moment in time, no, Vegapunk died on Sanji's watch. That's there's no discussion there, I don't think. Again, it's just, you can do some really good stuff, and then you J.R. Smith it at the end, and then no one's going to call you MVP. It's just the way it is. And he says, for every Sanji W, there's 2 L's. No, I think he had a ton of W's this arc. He had the most W's this arc, in my opinion. But then just one huge L that essentially throws the whole game away, and then it's just like, okay, well then what are we doing here? Okay. Zoro, okay, who are we crossing off here? Who has not done anything? Who has not done anything that I can just take off the list? Who can I just take off? Luchi would not slaughter Sanji. I got Sanji beating Luchi. Andrea Anami says, take the bum hats off the list. They ain't do shit but cardio. That is kind of true. No, Sanji's taking Luchi. Come on now. Come on now. Chopper hasn't done anything, right? Has Robin done anything? I don't think Robin's done anything. Robin actually might be a net negative at this moment in time, right? Robin's net negative because she pissed her pants as soon as she saw Gorosei, which I get it, the PTSD. I'm not one to knock PTSD, but I will say that I will say that when your company is like Nami, Usopp, and Chopper, I do think, I just hope she gets past it next chapter, because I do think that, like, she's she's the one that should be protecting them, in my opinion. You know? Here, because they're basically helpless. Like, you know, she came in and saved Sanji with the Black Mirror situation. That's good shit. Like, it's just, you know, the standard you hold a character to, which is if they are, you know, the strongest character, you kind of just hope that they're the ones looking out for the weaker characters in that situation. I love the fact that the weaker characters are stepping up to save Robin when Robin's really scared and has PTSD. But it's also, let me put it this way. Let's say we swapped Sanji into this situation. Instead of Robin, it's Sanji, right? And Saturn's attacking them. Or no, pretend it's not Saturn. Sanji's in that situation, and let's pretend like Sanji's brothers show up. Ichiji and Niji show up. And they're like, we're going to attack the Straw Hats. We're going to attack, and Sanji's surrounded by Nami, Usopp, and Chopper. And Brooke. Nami, Usopp, and Chopper, whatever. The weakling trio, and they're like, yeah, we're going to attack the Straw Hats and kill you guys. And then Sanji freezes up with the PTSD and stuff. And then they're like, okay, Nami, Usopp, and Chopper are having to save Sanji from his brothers. I would be like, it's not Sanji's fault, but at the same time, I think a lot of us would be kind of like, okay, Sanji should have to step in and save their ass too at some point in this scenario, right? I don't think Sanji could just pee his pants for like 2 chapters straight while like not like Nami, Usopp, and Chopper get rolled by the Germa boys, and we'd all just look at Sanji and be like, yeah, it's all good because you got the PTSD, you know? It's just, call it shitty, but it's just, I don't think we would give, you know, I don't think he would get that pass. Declan Murphy, thanks for the 1. Yeah, I know. Sanji isn't scared of his brothers. We know Sanji's not scared of his brothers, right? This is a hypothetical. This is called a what if. It's a hypothetical. It's imaginary. It's not based in reality. Sanji's also not there in place of Robin, and it's not Saturn. I mean, it's Saturn, not the Germa boys. This is a hypothetical. So pretend, right? This is make-believe, not actually happening. We all know what the story actually is. Make-believe that Sanji is in that situation, and it's the Germa boys that show up. Sanji's like, oh, this gives me the PTSD because they bullied me when I was a kid, right? Pretend that this is the scenario, and Sanji's peeing his pants for 2 chapters while Nami, Usopp, and Chopper are getting their asses kicked by Sanji's Germa brothers, and they're like, we're going to protect Sanji. I think at a certain point we'd be like, well, Sanji should have to step up at some point because he's way stronger and he can handle the situation way better, and he's just got to get over it in this situation. I think that's the way that we would look at it. I don't think people would really be giving Sanji a pass in that situation. So I don't super give Robin a pass here. I think she's basically, her status at the moment is liability. Umair, thanks for the 2. Hey Morj, where's the funeral for Morj Unleashed? R.I.P. Morj Unleashed. We don't talk about that here. It is a sad world that Morj Unleashed is. There's no time for Morj Unleashed. It can't be done. iSun says Lanji's living in this guy's head rent-free LML. No, this is the... I'm not criticizing Sanji here. We know that Sanji... Can people not follow a hypothetical? Can people literally not follow a hypothetical? This has nothing to do with Sanji. This is literally just me saying we hold other characters to certain standards, right? I think if Sanji was swapped into this scenario or something like that, and Sanji was scared because of past trauma or something, I think a lot of readers would get on Sanji's case. I think a lot of, like, you know what I mean? I think Robin is kind of getting a pass just because she's Robin. I'm saying that Sanji is not protected in a way that Robin is being protected right now. Do you understand? This is not a Sanji critique. If anything, this is saying that readers might criticize Sanji too much. That's what I'm saying. Or that Robin is given a pass for reasons that she shouldn't really be given a pass for. Anyway, moving along. We can try and think of a PTSD example for Zoro, but I just don't know who really bullied him. Quina did, but he just doesn't have a PTSD example from his childhood, you know? Sanji's the easiest pick because he got bullied, like he has a PTSD example from his childhood, something similar to Robin. Zoro had a softer childhood. Anyway. This is not a Sanji... if anything, this is an example that's on your side, which is that, like, hey, maybe Sanji gets maybe Sanji would get criticized or something like that for being in a similar scenario to Robin at the moment. Okay. Robin's a liability at the moment. You know what? You guys can see well enough. This is good enough. We can see. Almost everything fits. All right, Zoro, what has he done so far? Cut water. Got water fountain. Did he do anything in the lab? In the lab, he stopped Mihawk Seraphim at one point. This was outside. Oh, no. Defeated Kaku. Stopped Mihawk Seraphim. Defeated Kaku. Stopped the Mihawk Seraphim. Held off Seraphim. With Luffy, Luchi, Kaku. Defeated Luchi. So that's actually a decent rap sheet. Nami, what has she done? She kind of led the charge against... she's kind of leading the charge against Saturn. I would say leading the charge against Saturn. Declan Murphy, thanks for the 2. He set off Vegapunk's message. It's technically a W. Not really, because there's a big difference between a message being set off as an emergency broadcast because it has to be set off versus, let's say Vegapunk was still alive, and then he could set off the message exactly how he wanted to under the circumstances that he wanted to. With the way it's being set off right now, there's still potential that it could be canceled, right? It is obviously far less... Because if Vegapunk's still alive, then he has the option of turning on this broadcast or not turning off the broadcast. If he gets off the island, he has the option of doing this broadcast however the fuck he wants it. He can get the information out in whatever manner he chooses, right? He could even kill himself if he wants to... there's no scenario where... If Vegapunk's still alive, then the emergency broadcast happening is still an option if he wants to do it. Worst case scenario, he could kill himself. He is a character that seems to be prepared to death. Or I'm sure there's manual ways that he could trigger it. Or he could do the broadcast again. Or he could figure out other ways to disseminate this information. Like, the world is your oyster, right? Him dying and the emergency broadcast going out, when you have the words emergency at the start of something, right? It is basically like, this is the code red, worst case backup scenario, right? Versus if Vegapunk's still alive, then the information can be disseminated in however the fuck Vegapunk wants it, right? When he wants it, how he wants it, trigger it however he wants it, do a better, more elaborate broadcast if he wants it, take more time to set it up in a way that it can never be turned off or something like that. There's so many other things that could be done because option A of the emergency broadcast happening, that still exists if option B takes place where Vegapunk survives and gets to move on, right? You could still do the emergency broadcast. It's not contingent. Like, it activates when he dies, right? But it can be done without him dying. Or, if he so chose, he could activate it by allowing himself to die, right? These are options that all exist. So there's no scenario in which a broadcast, like a last case scenario, your last resort plan taking place is better than being alive and then having access to any sort of plan that you would like to use to execute this mission of disseminating information to the world, right? Because again, you can still do the broadcast. You just still get to be alive when the broadcast is going off. Or you can do a better broadcast. Or you can do a broadcast that's longer, more intricate, explains more information. Or there's so many other things that exist as options if Vegapunk is not forced. If Vegapunk doesn't just die and then the post-mortem worst case scenario thing goes off, you know? Artillery Knight, thanks for the 5. Jinbe is nothing but an Amazon worker this arc. Man's in the warehouse while everything else is happening. Also, Sanji, Vegapunk, and Kuma are the best MVPs. We've already discussed why Sanji can't be MVP, but Sanji has done the most this arc. Oh, he didn't... Did he not beat Kaku? I thought he beat Kaku. Maybe he didn't beat Kaku. Okay. Stalled Kaku? I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Held off Kaku? Let's say that. Okay. Nami leading the charge against Saturn. I don't remember if she does anything else. Does Nami do anything else? Nami does anything else. Also, let's get the stream likes to 200 real quick. Stussy took out Kaku. I was trying to remember how Kaku got taken out. How Kaku and Luchi got taken out. Okay, Sanji has by far the most achievements this arc. Outside of Luffy. So Sanji from top to bottom. I guess okay, so starts with this. Helped against Jinbe, against S Shark round 1. Stopped / handled S Shark solo round 2. Round 1 is the group encounter, which kind of undersold what Sanji can do. And then round 2 is what he could actually do. So he held off S Shark. He handled S Shark solo after that. Then gets Kaku with bubble gun. Blocked Saturn's kick. Malik, thanks for the 5. Am I tripping or did Nami bubble S Snake? Did Nami bubble S Snake? I don't remember. Did she? Did Sanji bubble all the Seraphim? I thought it was left unknown how each of the Seraphim got bubbled. John678 says Morj wants Frankie to win so bad. I literally don't even know what the Frankie did this arc. What the fuck Frankie did this arc. I don't remember. He has done some stuff, like he did some stuff against Saturn. I don't know what else Frankie's done. Sanji saves Bonnie how many times? Several times. Saved Bonnie multiple times. 3 to 4 question mark depending on interpretation. Blocked Kizaru. And then Venus Juro. Trying to think, is there anything else? Saved Edison. Did he save Nami and Edison from S Shark? Because that's essentially covered here. I'm just gonna I'll say saved Nami / Edison. Saved Kuma. Saved Nami and Frankie 2 times, I believe. I don't remember all of these individual things. Sanji saved Kuma. There's been a lot of moving parts. Sanji saved Kuma. Okay. Oh yeah, he saved Edison from a laser. Yeah. Saved Nami. I'll make that separate. Saved Nami. Saved Edison. Saved Kuma. Okay, so he's got a shit ton of stuff. Manning says outside of Egghead, Garp is MVP. Oh, Garp, in terms of like totality of the arc, what Garp did this arc is insane. Like one of the most impressive things any character's ever done, which is fighting an admiral at the same time as an entire Yonko crew, at the same time as having to create an escape route and protect a whole a whole squadron of your Marines. Like, it's a lot what Garp did. Rival buff for Zoro. Gave orders to Giants. I'm not giving rival buff, but order, I guess directed. Gave orders to Giants. Gave orders seems Delegated. Let's say delegated. Okay. Chopper. Bum. Remembered he has guard point. Healed some people overnight. He did heal some people overnight. Okay. Frankie. Bum. Did some stuff against Saturn. Who gives a fuck? Brooke. Made the ground icy so the Sunny could slide. Cut off Saturn's leg. Jinbe. Bum. Smoke screen. Vegapunk. Everything. Wait! Vegapunk, he might be in a Sanji situation where, you know, he had, like, ultimately is Vegapunk's world. We're all living in it. Like, this message gonna change the world, do all this great stuff. But at the same time, the whole reason that the world government is even gonna have mother flames, pacifistas, all of this shit is because Vegapunk fucking made it for them. And even if you want to say it's York, not Vegapunk, York fucking is Vegapunk. All the good and all the bad. I think he's in the same situation as Sanji, where you do a lot of good, but at the same time, just the bad, like, the whole fucking problem that the whole mess that they're in is his fucking fault. Frankie defeated Vice Admiral. Okay. Let's take Frankie off the bum list. Alright? I think it's unfair because I'm expecting him to do more because it's Egghead. But let's be objective, right? Defeats Vice Admiral. Helps hold off Saturn. He rescued Luffy from Saturn. This one I think is really big because if Frankie didn't do that, then the world government fucking gets Luffy right then. Luffy's fucking defenseless. Yeah, Frankie's pretty good. Actually, Frankie's in a good spot. All right, continuing. Okay, I'll phrase Vegapunks like this. Yeah, Vegapunk's just in a weird spot. JP, thanks for the 5. Garp buying time for a squad to escape felt like a smaller scale version of what Luffy was doing now. Call him Monkey D. Goat. Yeah, no, Garp's entire run at Hachinosu is just amazing. And it kind of goes to the, that trait that we kind of love from these types of characters, like Whitebeard, Luffy, what we've heard from Roger of just, like, going all out to protect your subordinates. The type of shit that, like Shanks, that's the endearing stuff. It's a big part of why people don't like Dragon, because it's just expected in One Piece. It's just the norm that we've come to expect from these type of characters, that you just, protecting your subordinates, that's what makes you really a great man in One Piece, right? And Dragon doesn't give a shit about his subordinates. Dragon, you hear him talk for a bit, he's like, oh yeah, my right hand, yeah, Eva's been in jail, I don't fucking know for how long. Kuma's a robot, don't really know what happened to him there. Morley also in jail. Yeah, I don't really give a shit, man. Like, that's Dragon's whole mentality, And that's refreshing. Good. You got business to take care of, man. If they're good subordinates, they'll figure their shit out, Alright. Bonnie. Bonnie's done a lot. Trying to remember from the beginning of the arc. From the beginning of the arc, so she gets rescued, right? Then she's in the lab with them. Doesn't really do anything for most of that. She's trying to find Vegapunk. Finds Vegapunk. She might have made it so Vegapunk gets captured by York, but that's not the worst thing in the world. They got that figured out. So let's start from the morning, right? Bonnie's taken out multiple passive... Like, okay. Okay, hold on. Stabbing Saturn. She gets captured. I don't know if that's a big deal. She's done a lot of work against the... Okay. Turned all the path... Something's up with my keyboard. It doesn't type as well now. Turn all the pacifistas. I think during the move, something happened. Just doesn't type as cleanly. Turn all the pacifistas against marine ships temporarily. She fought multiple vice admirals plus defeated a vice admiral. Currently taking on Venus Juro. We'll see how that goes. Kuma punched Saturn plus saved Bonnie. Does he do anything else? Giorgio's asking, I just got here, but why is Usopp not even on the list? Because it would be a waste of space. Like he is. Just kidding. I hope he gets some good shit in Elbaf. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Alright, Stussy took out Kaku / Luchi. I feel like she's done something else, right? What else has she done? She's done some other shit. She was a liability. Who needed to be saved in many fights. So that does matter. Because if we're taking Robin points for that, then so should that happen for Bonnie. I don't think Kuma punched Akainu. Farzale says, bro, Kuma just got there, so is that really fair at this point? I don't know, we're jotting down which characters have done, you know? Punch Saturn plus save Bonnie, liability since then. Okay, Sentomaru. Sentomaru's been up to some good shit. He controlled the pacifistas to help them for a bit. Held off Kizaru for like 3 panels. That's good. It's pretty good. Gave them some insider info. That's pretty good. Yeah, a lot of what she could do came from Vegapunk. That's true. Like turning all the pacifista that's Vegapunk setting that up. But it's just like with Vegapunk, everything he does, it's a double-edged sword, because it's like, hey Vegapunk, I'm so happy that you created this failsafe that will allow us to turn these weapons of mass destruction back against, you know, the villains. Good job. Hey, how did they get those weapons of mass destruction in the first place? Like, why do they exist, you know? It's like, well, I fucking made them. So, okay, if you fucking made them, then at the very fucking least you can do is create a failsafe that will allow us to not all be fucking killed by them when the world government inevitably misuses their power and abuses it. So, it's just like, everything he does is a double-edged sword, right? Yeah, he created a failsafe to make sure that the pacifistas don't kill us all, but the only reason the fucking pacifistas exist is because he made the pacifistas for the world government to use. So, you can't just, you can't just get the, like, Vegapunk just... It's too murky with him, you know? Alright. Tala says, saving Edison from the laser. I wrote saved Edison. Did he save Edison again? He might have saved Edison again. Okay, saved Nami, saved Edison. I'm going to say ×2, question mark. Okay. So looking at all this, I just don't think anybody has a great case. Sanji might still take it away. Because I said from the start he can't be MVP because Vegapunk died. But the thing is, I also expected that somebody else would have a good case at the end of the day. But nobody else has a good case. Like, I'm not looking at this and being like, anybody here is MVP. So, let's be clear, right? So, to be clear, with MVP, right, a lot of it comes down to, and you understand this if you watch sports at all and understand the general concept of MVP. With MVP, a lot of it comes down to not just how much you produce, but like, you are judged relative to what is in your realm of production, okay? So it's like, Shaq can be MVP, but nobody's expecting Shaq to be dishing out like 10 assists or like a triple-double or something, right? If Shaq gets like a, 28 and 10, 38 and 10 or something like that, that's good. You don't need to be getting assists. 38, 10, and 3, that's good on Shaq, right? You can't be dinging him for not getting assists, right? Where you ding him is if he gets like 10 points, 4 rebounds, right? Stuff like that, right? It's what area are you supposed to contribute in, right? When I'm judging Steph Curry, right, Finals MVP, it's like, well, he didn't play defense, like, or he was good in defense that series, but it's like, well, he wasn't that good in defense or something. It's like, okay, but that wasn't his thing. He was supposed to score points, play make, draw defenders, stuff like that, right? Same virtue, it's like, if your role is to fucking play defense, and you're not playing defense, if you're Rudy Gobert, and everyone's getting to the rim for free, then I'm going to dock you for that, right? So it is generally what you contribute overall to total production, right? But it's also judged to some degree what your area of, like, what you are supposed to do, right? So when I'm looking at Zoro, cutting a water fountain, that's not a big deal, right? Why can't I cross this off? Cross off. Hello? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it only does that in Google Paint. But cutting a water fountain. Oh no, I can do strike through like this, right? Okay, I'm not gonna strike it through because it does exist. But you get what I mean? Like, this shit doesn't really. Well, it does matter because like saving Bonnie, that does matter. Like cut water fountain saved Bonnie. But stuff like held off Kaku, that's cute. Stop Mihawk Seraphim. So I think the big things are like, with the biggest things that Zoro did this arc, right? You most would agree it's he fought the Seraphim with Luffy and Luchi and Kaku, but he didn't beat them, which is basically, for most people's perspective, that's not a good look. Most people reading that fight as the fight began were like, yeah, Luffy, Luchi, Zoro, and Kaku should beat these fucking Seraphim, right? No revisionist history here. That's what we went into the series expecting them to do, right? Treat it like sports. You go into the game, you're like, yeah, Luffy, Zoro, Luchi, and Kaku, once Luffy and Zoro get serious, they should take care of these Seraphim. No revisionist history. I don't want to hear any bullshit excuses now like, oh, but the Seraphim with the flames on, etc. No. When we went into that series, we're like, Zoro's already beaten King. He should be able to pull out Advanced Conqueror's Haki. He and Luffy should be able to beat these Seraphim. So if they don't, if they have to resort to bubble bullshit, then this isn't actually that impressive, right? It's like, yeah, he put up 20 points, but Zoro's supposed to be a 30 points per game scorer, right? This is not MVP stuff. Luchi, same thing. This is underwhelming. No revisionist history. When Zoro went into that series with Luchi, everybody was like, yeah, this man should wash that man, right? People had different predictions for how long it would take, how difficult it would be, but generally speaking, nobody thought that it would take the number of chapters that it did, the level of difficulty that it did, and just in general take the level of exertion that it did and require actually Sanji calling about, etc., right? This is an underperformance no matter how you spin it. Because if you go into a series and you're like, yeah, Steph Curry's going to drop 35 points a game, wipe the floor with these guys, right? And at the end of the game, at the end of the series, he drops 17 points per game, terrible efficiency, still gets the win. It's like, cool, that's good, but that's not MVP numbers, right? That's the case. So you're holding the characters to the standard that they're what you expect out of them, what they're supposed to be doing, right? So far, Zoro's been underwhelming by his standards, right? Nami hasn't done shit, so there's nothing to say here. Zoro's done nothing by his standards, but the thing is, so have most characters. Most characters in, like, most of the Straw Hats in Egghead Island have just been underwhelming across the board. So Zoro's still been doing stuff, but it's like, again, It's like if KD's playing in a series and he's dropping like 24 points a game, 26 points a game. It's like, that's good, but it's not what KD's supposed to be doing, you know? Now, Sanji's tricky, because Sanji's like, he's done a shit ton of shit, right? He's dropping like 40 a game, but the Vegapunk thing is big. Vegapunk thing is big. Let's world's most valuable man die. So I don't know how to evaluate this. You know? I just don't know. Because there's no sports analogy. It's basically like, if you are putting up really good numbers each game, but then, like, let's say game 3 or something like that, you take the basketball and score on yourself for the game losing play or something like that. You know? Like, if you have the game losing play, but the series isn't over, right? So Sanji can still redeem himself by the end of this. It's just at this moment, this just happened. Like, this is very fresh in our memories, right? Vegapunk just died, and now this emergency broadcast is having to go out, which is obviously not the ideal way for Vegapunk's message to go out to the world, right? He's having to use his last resort that would trigger when his heart went off, right? So, yeah, I guess the analogy would be like, Sanji put up great numbers game 1, game 2, game 3, but then he's also the reason they lost game 3. The series is still rolling. It's just now they're in game 4, game 5, and it's, you know, he's got to put up even better numbers to make up for him just losing them a game. Because, like, you guys know I talk about low points, etc. Within the context of the climax of Egghead Island, right? Vegapunk dying and the ensuing incidents is essentially the low point of failure for the Straw Hats, right? That they've got to climb out of, basically. So that's only within the context of the climax. I'm not applying that to the whole arc, but that is a major low point, right? So we're going to revisit this, because when you just list out everything Sanji's done, it's kind of like, how much do you weigh the Vegapunk moment? Chopper, there's nothing to really say. He did his stuff, like he healed people overnight, which is actually good. It does matter. I'm going to remove Bum from his thing. Remembered he has guard point, healed. This is actually, Chopper's doing what he's supposed to do. He's a role player that's playing out his role. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Nothing extraordinary, but nothing damning, you know? JP, thanks for the 5. First time watching Joel Embiid outside of highlights. Has he always been this dirty of a player? So, yesterday was actually, for those of you who don't know, this was a Sixers game yesterday. And it actually felt good watching it. So, like, this was the first time my girlfriend was over. I was showing her an NBA game for the first time, like just having her watch basically from start to finish. Like, she's seen before, but never actually just had to listen to somebody explain shit to her the entire way through, right? So as the game progressed, I was like, that's Joel Embiid. I hate this guy because he's always at the fucking free throw line. He doesn't play like a dominant big man, and he's kind of a whiny, annoying, dirty player, right? I didn't even say dirty, but I was just like, there's something grimy about him, right? It feels so satisfying to, like, explain some shit about, like, yeah, this is how it is. And then that's exactly how it plays out over the course of the game, that it's just, like, very I'm like, see? He's at the free throw line. Like there was, like, a sequence here where he was at the free throw line, like, 4 out of the next, like, 5 possessions or something like that. And then he's doing the grabbing leg shit and stuff like that. And by the end of the game, she was on board hating him too. Not hating the way I hate, but, like, you know, it's just, it feels good to, like, be like, yeah, this guy's like this, and that's why I don't like him. And then that plays out exactly on the screen, exactly like that. And I'm just like, see, you feel like a fucking prophet. It's just like, it just plays out the he painted the exact, like, within one game, he painted the exact picture of who he is to a total newcomer, which, I don't know, I think says a lot. I don't think I'll ever like that player, that guy. And I used to root for him. I used to root for the Sixers around 2018, 2019. I wanted them to be good. I think after 2019, I was just like, they fucking gave Joel Embiid Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, when Ben Simmons was still very, very good, still one of the best players in the league, and Tobias Harris, right, who was a fine fourth option, right? And then you have Joel Embiid, supposed to be one of the most dominant players ever. And it's like, dude, you couldn't do it with those guys, you know? From then on, I was like, and it's not like they were the problem. The very next year, Jimmy Butler goes to the fucking finals, right? With a team that has no business being in the finals. It's Embiid every single year. There's so many aspects of him as a player that just annoy me. Anyway. Malik, thanks for the 5. Sanji leads the league in blocks and assists, but isn't scoring. If we want to talk like defeating characters, then yeah, he hasn't really scored so far. I think you could argue taking out Kaku with the bubble gun. I think is big. I think we could give him credit for whatever the fuck happened with S Shark. We don't really know what happened overnight with S Shark, but he's scoring right now against Venus Juro. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah, it was the game losing play that happened with Vegapunk. That's pretty big. JP says he quite literally had a turnover. This is Sanji. Sanji quite literally had a turnover, but instead of a basketball, it's Vegapunk's body. That is a great way to put it. And imagine that it was a turnover that was worth 40 points. JWP, thanks for the 5. I saw a 2-minute compilation of Joel Embiid playing super dirty, just in this series alone, LMAO. And the league tried to delete, or they got rid of a lot of that evidence from, like, they scrubbed highlight reels and stuff of Joel Embiid dirty plays. That's what I really fucking hate. And I hate how the NBA is just like a really, really dirty league in terms of how it's managed. And players on podcasts who are retired now have straight up talked about like how they do, like, it is a reality that the refs are instructed to do certain things and stuff to make things more difficult for certain teams. I'm not going to get into that here, but them scrubbing negative highlights of one of their star players, like an MVP, like the guy who won MVP last year being a dirty player, is classic NBA. I fucking hate it. Just how protected, like, just how far they'll go to protect the image of a certain guy. Anyway, because it's it reflects on themselves. Okay, so Chopper's actually done stuff. Role player playing to his abilities, I think. Robin, straight up liability, get her off the team. Unless next chapter she goes off, which she very well could. Frankie has been fine. Frankie's been good. Frankie's been sixth man. I think so far, if I were to say, like, for example, Chopper's not playing well as a role player, being a normal role player. Right? Frankie, I think, is sixth man. Like, he hasn't done any major plays, I don't think, but he's been doing stuff. Brooke, making the ground icy so Sunny could slide. To me, that almost feels like Oda trying to think of something for Brooke to do, but it is something Brooke did. So it's normal role player activity. I'll say Zoro's a slightly underperforming for a star of the team. Like, he's not playing bad. That's the thing. Zoro, if we're evaluating as an athlete, like, he's not playing bad, right? Like, ultimately, Seraphim problems, those were dealt with, right? Like, he didn't beat them straight up, but it was dealt with. Like, Luchi, he beat him, like, at the end of the day. Like, he got there, you know? Not as easily as people expected him to, but he got there. So he's not underperforming, right? It's just like, let's say Zoro's supposed to be putting up 25 points per game or something. Second star on the team, he's supposed to be putting up 25 points per game scoring. He's been putting up, like, 22. And let's say he should be at about, like, 48% efficiency. He's at, like, 44. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're playing a little bit underneath what we want out of you. Like, we want you to like turn on the jets, like, get to 30 points a game or something. Like we're up against the fucking world government, you know? Like, this is not this isn't fucking Doflamingo's squad or something like that. We're up against the world government, the Gorosei, there's an admiral, CP0, etc. You need to be turning it up here, and he's doing fine so far. Like, nothing that it's like, oh fuck, Zoro's really fucking us over, what the fuck, Zoro's not contributing at all, but it's just like, can you move these fights along a little faster? You know? Can you stop huff puffing? Like, get your conditioning in shape, you know? It's not like we're playing in Denver here. Gerard, thanks a lot. Sanji's like having a 4 40-point games, then a 12-point one. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. We're not that far in the series, because if we were, then 4 40-point games, the series is over, but, you know. John 678 says, what the fuck, he's barely putting in 20. However you want to interpret it. Fine, 20. Like, you get what I'm saying. Like, he's a second star. You want him to be elevating right now, right? You want your second star to be elevating right now. because we're up against some like real heavy hitters. He's clocking in. He's playing fine. He's playing like a lot of times when Anthony Davis frustrates me. It's like he doesn't play bad. It's just like, dude, we know what you can play like. Like, play like that, you know? Anyway, moving down the list. Brooke, Jinbe, come on. Like, Jinbe is actually, like, Jinbe should be playing like, he's a fucking starter that's playing like he just, he's just roaming around hoping the ball doesn't come to him. Jinbe's out. Jinbe's basically... Well, he's not even doing anything that's fucking them over. He's just not helping as much as he could. Jinbe's out. Vegapunk, too hard to discuss. Bonnie, I don't feel comfortable putting Bonnie as MVP. She just doesn't seem like MVP stuff at the moment. Let's see how she does against Venus Juro next chapter. Because she's been too much of a liability, I think, so far, in terms of she's had to be saved a lot. She's having to be saved quite a bit. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Having to be saved quite a bit. She did, like, okay, her turning the pacifistas to attack the Buster Call was huge. Like, that's a big swing. That fucked up a lot of their ships. Dude, honestly, actually, I forgot. Yeah, we were supposed to put these guys down. Giants, Dory / Brogy. I think it's actually, the more I think about it, it's just them. If we count them as a singular entity, it's just them. MVP. I think it's not actually close. I think it's not close. I think it's Dory and Brogy. Right? Just think about it for a moment. I'm not going to give it to them right now. Huge in bringing in reinforcements that clear the way. Remember, Dory and Brogy, like, if you guys want to remember, they show up. They literally show up and start fucking up vice admirals, right? Which chapter did they show up? I think it's Dory and Brogy, because they've only been around, I believe, 5 chapters. I think it's just 5 chapters. And they've already, like, they're the big, like, MVP is, like, most valuable, right? You guys understand what MVP means, most valuable? So the moment Dory and Brogy showed up, that was, like, keep in mind, Strats are kind of fucked right now, right? Right around here. Like, look, little old Luffy up against 5 Gorosei. Even Luffy can't take on 5 Gorosei, right? At least not right now, not today. Not at this moment in time. The tide swings hard towards the Gorosei. Like, this entire chapter is the tide swinging hard towards the Gorosei. Venus Juro is going off. Mars is about to break through the barrier and everything like that. Luffy gets eaten by a sandworm. Everyone's freaking out, right? Everyone's freaking out. Zoro does have his moment here. But everyone's freaking out. And then the tide swings back the moment Dory and Brogy show up. Because Dory and Brogy show up, and then suddenly, like, Luffy's got help. Like, everybody's got help, right? So Dory and Brogy are giving Luffy help against the Gorosei. This is a good color spread. I like this color spread. Let's scroll down. Like, while Zoro's fucking around with, like, Luchi, you know, you've got Dory and Brogy. Literally, they're giving the Straw... Like, the Straw Hats' escape route is Dory and Brogy. Their entire plan is built on Dory and Brogy's fucking ship getting them out of here. Sanji told them where to go. Good on Sanji. And then, yeah, now we're dealing with Gorosei, straight up. Warcury. Got Warcury straight up. Dory and Brogy block Warcury. Warcury's coming at Luffy. They stop Warcury, right? Who at the moment some speculate to be the strongest Gorosei. Possibly. At least top 3. Right? They stop him. They send him flying back. Like, come on, this is good shit. Luffy's Red Rock didn't even do anything to... Well, this doesn't really damage him either, but you know what I mean? Like, Luffy's Red Rock didn't even, like, budge him. Like, this is a team effort right now that's happening here. It's Luffy and the Giants versus the Gorosei. And it's not just that they showed... Like, Dory and Brogy are basically necessary right now for Luffy being able to hold out against all these Gorosei. Or at least they swung it pretty hard, right? Right off the bat, decapitating Jupiter. Right off the bat, blocking Warkery, saving Luffy from him, knocking him back. And then it's just their fucking entire squad is their escape route, right? They're all trying to get to the Giants. I think Dory and Brogy even... Am I crazy, or did they take out a Vice Admiral a second ago on their way here? Right? Someone correct me? Dory and Brogy also took out a Vice Admiral on the way here? Let's see. Let's see. Whoops, click on the wrong thing. Come on, man. Where is this shit? I might be wrong. Yeah, this okay. Right here. Chapter 1108. Where are they? Where are they right now? Oh yeah, like right here. Big save. Big save. So before they even come, like in the span of a couple chapters, right? So this is a big Frankie Bonnie save that's happening right here. Casually taking out the Giants, casually taking out the Vice Admirals, they save everyone. Frankie, Bonnie, Kuma, everybody saved right here. Then after that, like, their subordinates are taking care of them from here. Like, this is pretty big shit. You know what I mean? I think it's just Dory and Brogy. I think we kind of, like, I forgot about them, but they kind of take it, you know? Should have put them in from the start. Okay, so Dory and Brogy, huge in bringing, they provide the escape ship. They save Frankie, Bonnie, Kuma by defeating Vice Admiral. Save Luffy from Jupiter. Save Luffy from Warkery. Help Luffy 3v3 the Gorosei. And that's all in the span of 5 chapters. I think it's just got to be the Giants. You're giving MVP to an entire team. You can swap. I mean, you can cut them in half, right? Whichever one was the one that. Let's say whoever was the one that. Okay, I guess between Dory and Brogy, which was the one that actually took care of the Vice Admiral? He's technically slightly more important because he's the one that did it. Because you can cut it in half, right? Was it Dory? Brogy. Okay, Brogy takes it. Okay. Brogy saves how do I spell his name? Brogy equals MVP. I think Brogy gets MVP. Sanji would have an argument if Sanji did not have the Vegapunk moment, but if you just take Brogy's feats, so basically Brogy helps in bringing the reinforcements that come, Brogy helps in providing escape ship, Brogy defeats a Vice Admiral and saves Frankie, Bonnie, and Kuma, Brogy helps in saving Luffy from Jupiter, Brogy helps in saving Luffy from Warkery, Brogy helps in knocking Warkery on his ass, Brogy and Dory, Brogy is involved in helps 3v3 against the Gorosei for like 6 minutes or something like that. I forget what the mark was when they came in to help Luffy. 6 minutes, maybe 9. But off screen, they're helping him for that period of time, right? I think that's pretty undisputably. It's got to be right. Like, what's the argument for anybody else at that point? Because you can just list off what he did already, and it's about as much as what Sanji did. I think it's more impressive than what Sanji's done so far, and they didn't let Vegapunk die. Also fed Luffy. Holy shit. Okay. Also fed Luffy to revive him. I think, like, come on. It's Dory, Brogy, and Luffy against the Gorosei for like 7 minutes straight. Coming in with clutch plays, taking out Jupiter, freeing Luffy from Jupiter, blocking Warkery, knocking Warkery on his ass. These are just the things we've seen, right? They've been helping Luffy fight him for the last, several minutes. They revive Luffy, because otherwise Luffy's fucked and Luffy loses. They revive Luffy there. They save Luffy. They save Frankie, Bonnie. Brogy saves Frankie, Bonnie, Kuma. Takes out a vice admiral. Brings the crew that's basically saving the Straw Hat's asses. It's pretty clearly MVP. It's in 5 chapters. It's not actually too close. I'll say this. If Sanji did not let Vegapunk die, I think it might be debatable. But I think even if you take away the Vegapunk thing, like just straight up, Dory and Brogy assisted more. Like, if you... fighting against the Gorosei with Luffy and saving Luffy's life multiple times for close to 10 minutes, 9 minutes, that's really big, right? Because Sanji's biggest feat, I think most would agree this arc, was stopping the Kizaru laser, which was 1 moment, 1 panel. Dory and Brogy basically fighting side by side with Luffy for that period of time against characters stronger than Kizaru, it's a bigger deal. I think no matter how you spin it. Like, I think if you ask a Sanji fan straight up, like, would you rather Sanji block a Kizaru laser? Or would you rather Sanji fight side by side with Luffy against 3 Gorosei for 10 minutes and save his life multiple times during that? I think most people would be like, the Gorosei one is more impressive. Please give us several chapters of Sanji doing that. That's what we're getting right now with Sanji versus Venus Juro. So obviously Sanji still has... I think Sanji has room to catch the Gorosei by the end, or the Giants by the end of the arc. We're giving it to Brogy because he has the extra moment of giving Luffy the food. Or not giving Luffy the food, but defeating the Vice Admiral. Who gives Luffy the food? Let's see. Who gives Luffy the food? That actually matters too. Because then that might cancel out. Brogy's also the one that feeds Luffy the... Brogy's doing everything. Also, Brogy fed... Okay. Also, Brogy fed Luffy... Damn, Brogy's the one that's doing everything here. What the fuck is Dory doing? Can Oda spread some of the love around amongst these giants? Alright, guys. I think that's basically... I think that's pretty cut and dry. Shit, what does this say? What other... Fuck. I can't read this. This is from Party McFly. It's kind of covered up by my camera. I can't really move my camera, otherwise it'll fuck shit up. Okay, what other bombshells do you think we'll get from Vegapunk's message? Maybe Ancient Kingdom name? Wait, was this earlier? I think this was already earlier. I don't think the Ancient Kingdom name is being revealed here. Alright, I would like to hear any other argument for someone that's not Brogy, but I think it's pretty set. Like, you know... Because I think if it was any other character in this scenario, like imagine instead of Dory and Brogy swooping in to cut off Jupiter's head, Zoro swooped in to cut off Jupiter's head. People would be sucking that shit off forever. You know, like everyone would just be chanting Zoro MVP. And imagine next chapter, it was like Zoro blocks Warkery and knocks him on his ass. It would just be, come on, like it would be cut and dry, you know? I agree that it's teamwork what they're doing here, but let's say it's Zoro and Sanji swooping in and knocking Jupiter out, like taking Jupiter out for a moment, saving Luffy. Let's say Zoro and Sanji block Warkery and knock him on his ass. Everyone just be like, holy shit, these are Zoro and Sanji's like most epic. Zoro and Sanji going toe to toe with top tiers. Insane. MVPs. Zoro and Sanji the goats, wings of the Pirate King, etc. Just because it's Dory and Brogy and they're these like big ass giants we haven't seen like in forever and don't have much attachment to, doesn't change the fact that they're basically coming in super clutch to be like Oda had to write. They're essentially the Deus Ex Machina. Not exactly, not quite, but they are close to the Deus Ex Machina that Oda wrote in out of the blue to give Luffy a lifeline and basically save his ass for this finale. All right. I think we're good. Restriker says, without Vegapunk, the message wouldn't be broadcasted to the world. Yeah, but again, my argument is that Vegapunk's the reason that the world is close to getting fucked up in the first place, because pacifistas, who created that shit, mother flames that allow islands to be genocided at a button's press, like, that's Vegapunk shit. Like, all of this shit that he's built for the world government, all of their advancements, it's largely him. So he kind of owes the world this broadcast just to kind of undo a lot of the path of destruction that he's allowed, that he's paved, like, built with his own hands. Umair says, Lakers in 10, hoping the Lakers win today. If they win today, I'm keeping my expectations low. I'm probably not watching much of this, just because I don't... One, I got some work to do, but two, it's just like... I'll tune in if the Lakers are winning towards the end, but I feel like it's more likely that the Lakers lose today, and I just don't need to see that. They got their symbolic win. If they win this, then we got a series. Then I'm watching both games after this, for sure. All right, guys. I think... Let me check if I'm missing anything. Let me see the... Hold on. Let me see. Are there any arguments against Dorian Broggie? What is more impressive... Or let's say specifically Broggie. What is more impressive than providing the escape ship, saving... taking out a vice admiral while saving Bonnie, Kuma, etc., saving Luffy 3 times, and helping Luffy fend off the Gorosei for, 8 minutes? Rajan says, Morj, why are we thinking Sanji should get away from Gorosei and Admiral with Screaming Man in his arms? Are Kizaru and Saturn that bad? No, it's just second commander shit. It's just what you expect him to be able to do. It's also just the fact that Sanji... where no one's asking him to beat Kizaru. But if the request is... Because Luffy's putting in work, right? Like, Luffy had to fight Kizaru one-on-one for, an extended period of time. Luffy was handling Saturn 1v1. As soon as Luffy realized he couldn't rely on Sanji to take care of Kizaru... That's the wrong way to phrase it, but just, Luffy then had... the fact that Luffy had to then take the burden on of, fighting them both at the same time... again, you measure things based on expectations, right? So... Before this began, right? Because if you understand sports, how MVP works, right? When somebody overperforms what you're expecting them to do, that's when you give them their flowers, that's when you praise. When somebody underperforms basic expectations, that's when you dock points from them, right? So for Luffy, holding, if you remember, no revisionist history, what were we all talking about? When it was time to fight Kizaru, everyone was like, okay, if Luffy can handle Kizaru, that's impressive, right? This was when Luffy should be able to beat Kizaru. This was when the round 1 match happened, right? Everyone was like, Luffy should be able to beat Kizaru, right? That's basic expectation. Luffy should be, at this point, able to match up against an admiral and win. And Luffy was able to take on Kizaru, take him out by the end of the 5 minutes or whatever, right? Cool. Saturn comes up. Saturn seems to be maybe even stronger than Kizaru. So now it's okay, Luffy's fighting Saturn. Damn, Luffy's holding up against Saturn too. So, Luffy's performing to what we believe Luffy should be able to do up to this point in time. So, Luffy, we're good. Now, Saturn and Kizaru are fighting Luffy at the same time. Nobody thought that Luffy can take Saturn and Kizaru at the same time. That is not what we were saying. If you remember, Sanji came in, stopped Kizaru's laser, and we got that cool shot of Luffy and Sanji side by side, facing off against Saturn and Kizaru, and everyone was like, cool, now we gotta fight. Yeah, Sanji's probably not strong enough to beat Kizaru or Saturn individually, but the hope is that he can hold, he can carry his weight, you know? He very literally could not, in that the moment that Luffy requested him to do one thing, which was we're up against 2 top, you just take care of Vegapunk. Just take care of Vegapunk, that's all you gotta do. The moment he was given that request, he fumbled it and Vegapunk dies. There is no excuse for that, right? So then after that, what Luffy had to do was way beyond what anyone thought that he should have to do, which was Luffy had to take on Saturn and Kizaru at the same time. Nobody, no reader was saying Luffy needs to solo them both, but Luffy did. He had to, because Sanji couldn't hold up his side when they tried to line up with this 2v2 scenario. So, I know you're spinning it as oh shit. I know it can be spun as well, Sanji had to carry fuck, I did water. Sanji had to carry like a screaming man or whatever, like a dying, bleeding man, and like escape with him or something. Like, how is he supposed to do that? It's just like, well, look, I guess he couldn't, but it's fair to be disappointed with that. And I'll ask you this. I'll say this, right? All I'll say is this. If you're a Sanji fan, how we measure MVP and things like that in sports, as I've been saying, is about expectations. If you are a Sanji fan, you cannot lie to yourself in your heart. When Sanji blocked that laser and lined up next to Luffy, and they faced off, Luffy and Sanji versus Saturn and Kizaru, right? And Luffy then said, you take care of Vegapunk or something like that. Did you, in your heart, think right after that, oh no, that's an insane expectation. There's no way Sanji could hope, there's no possible way Sanji could be any use right here. Of course, Vegapunk's gonna die immediately. Or did you think, oh, this is awesome. This is an opportunity for Sanji to have to protect Vegapunk and hold out against some top tier opponents or something, right? Most likely, you thought of option B. You didn't think, oh no, Vegapunk's gonna die immediately because fucking Sanji's gonna be completely incapable of doing anything. No, after Sanji blocked that laser and it was 2v2, Luffy and Sanji versus Saturn and Kizaru, right? You're heading into this game. You're just like, all right, Luffy's got Sanji by his side. Whatever Luffy asks Sanji to do, he can rely on him in this situation. That's what you were thinking. You were excited for Sanji to show out right then. You were excited for Sanji to have a good moment. Right? Correct? Therefore, the expectation is fairly set beforehand. This is how sports work. These are how we view players. This is we're going into the series. I need 25 out of Bradley Beal this series. I need 30 out of KD. I need 28 out of Devin Booker or something. Those are the expectations when you go in. Once Bradley Beal scores 10 points a game or something, you don't just get to sit back and be like, well, you know what? It's not fair to have expected him to do that. It's motherfucker, we had that expectation going in. That's how you judge MVP. That's how you judge this shit in sports, all right? If you don't like it, then you don't understand how MVP, the MVP tracker works, period. I want you Sanji fans to go pull out whatever comments you had before that Vegapunk scenario, that whole debacle, and tell me if you weren't pulling out shit oh boy, Sanji's going to be able to handle Kizaru, or Sanji's going to have to protect Vegapunk to get him away. Unless you, unless you wrote before that shit, well, Vegapunk's just done, RIP. It's completely unreasonable to expect Sanji to be able to help him survive for more than half a panel. Unless you were writing that shit, then you have to acknowledge that this is a huge, huge, huge fumble, right? That's just the way shit works. Goku, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 2 months. Morj, I'm at work right now, but Yamato is MVP because she stayed in Wano. That is a good point. That is a great point. It's the same shit, to be perfectly fair, it's the same shit with Zoro fans and Luchi. As a Zoro fan, you do not now get to gas Zoro defeating Luchi because it's underperforming. How long he took to do it was underperforming because the standard is set before the fight begins. It's the same way. That's how sports works, all right? If you want to talk about MVP and shit, that is how sports works. If you're going into a final series, trying to figure out who's finals MVP, you have an expectation. Steph Curry needs to play at this level. They need to at least hit this level. Anything beyond that is gravy. Helps their case even better. LeBron James, we're going to hold him to this standard, right? Zoro going into Luchi fight. It was supposed to be a wash, was it not? Zoro fans, I would love to see their comments about how Zoro would have mollywopped Luchi beforehand, one-shotted, washed, low-diffed. That's what they were saying before the Zoro-Luchi matchup happened, right? I thought that Zoro would handle Luchi relatively easily, It didn't happen. Took him God knows how fucking long, how much huffing and puffing, how much asthma, how much poor conditioning being reflected, for him to finally get some, shit talk from Sanji that got his head in the game and actually pull it off. But he was supposed to do it way earlier, right? This is how MVP discussion works. You don't get excuses post-fact. Oh no, how was Sanji supposed to... Kizaru's just too fast. You weren't saying that shit beforehand. You weren't saying that shit the chapter before. You were not saying that shit. Zoro beating Luchi after taking fucking 45 minutes to do it. You don't get to celebrate. There's nothing to celebrate. You said it would happen in 2 minutes. You said it would be a minute, one shot, right? No celebrations. Let's hope that these characters get better showings against the Gorosei from here on out, but these were not MVP showings up till now. Again, at least in Sanji's case, he had a shit ton of other good moments beforehand. But no, letting Kizaru die is not something that gets excused, right? It does not get excused. All right. We're going to call it there. If Morj Unleashed still existed, this rant would be front and center next video, but it doesn't. So, it's the way it is. All All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and definitely watch out for tomorrow's video. It is a good one, and I think I personally think that it's a video that goes straight to the heart of like how the entire story ends. So it's one of the most comprehensive theories I've done because it connects to the previous theory I did talking about how the water levels of the world would change by the end of the story. All right, guys. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you all later. Hope you guys enjoyed.